After being reborn, I immediately went to the hospital and asked the doctor to help me abort the boy in my womb. In my previous life, after 5 years of marriage without conceiving, I was suddenly found to be pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. However, the doctor diagnosed that the fetuses were too large and required selective reduction, or else my life would be at risk. Just as I was struggling with whether to undergo the surgery, I suddenly heard the thoughts of the child in my womb. Mom, hurry up and get rid of this nasty girl. She's been sucking my nutrients in the womb and is about to drain me to death. This damn girl isn't my real sister at all. She's the illegitimate child of Lu Tingting and my father, transferred into my mother's womb through dark magic. Once she's born, she'll suck me dry, and my mother will treat her as her own daughter. Then, all the family fortune will belong to that pair of wretched women. Hearing this, I immediately went to the hospital and aborted the girl, keeping the boy. But on the day of my delivery, the child in my womb began to thrash violently, kicking and punching me from inside, causing massive hemorrhage and leading to my death. On the verge of death, I heard his voice again. This stupid woman actually believed my words and aborted her own daughter. Die quickly, don't block me from seeing my parents. When I opened my eyes again, Lu Tingting, a doctor, was sitting in front of me, suggesting that I undergo a fetal reduction surgery as soon as possible. 1. Sister-in-law, your body is too weak. If both children are carried to full term, it will definitely put your life at risk. It's better to undergo the fetal reduction surgery as soon as possible. Hearing the familiar voice, I suddenly opened my eyes and saw Lu Tingting earnestly advising me to undergo the fetal reduction surgery from across the room. I was startled and abruptly stood up, taking several steps back before steadying myself. Are you okay, sister-in-law? It's all my fault for being too blunt. Lu Tingting came around the table to help me up, a flicker of disdain flashing in her eyes. I took a few deep breaths, calmed myself down, and shook my head. It's not your fault, it's all my problem. The matter of fetal reduction is too significant. I can't make a decision right away. I understand, please think it over, but delaying for too long isn't good for your health. I hope you can give me a reply as soon as possible. Walking out of the clinic, I ran as fast as if a ghost were chasing me from behind. It wasn't until the smell of disinfectant faded that I finally stopped, finding a small shop on the side of the road to buy a bottle of mineral water. I drank half of it in one go, finally regaining my composure, and just at that moment, I heard a voice from inside my belly. Mom, please save me, I'm being sucked dry by my sister. She's stealing all the nutrients. I have nothing left. Hearing that voice, I finally confirmed that all of this was not a dream, but real. I actually had been reborn. In my previous life, I had been married to my husband, Su Jian, for 5 years without conceiving. At that time, my husband mentioned that his childhood friend, a female doctor in obstetrics and gynecology, had a miraculous remedy that could help one get pregnant. That's how I came to know Lu Tingting. After taking the remedy prescribed by Lu Tingting, I quickly became pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. The whole family was overjoyed, and I trusted Lu Tingting even more as a result. But I didn't expect that a few months later, during a prenatal checkup, Lu Tingting told me that my health was too poor to carry 2 children. If I insisted on giving birth, not only would the babies not survive, but I would also be in danger of losing my life. When I heard this, I felt deeply guilty. Every child is my treasure, and I can't bear to part with any of them. Just as I was struggling with my thoughts, I suddenly heard my unborn son's voice in my belly. He told me that my husband and Lu Tingting had been having an affair for a long time, and because Lu Tingting didn't want to endure the hardships of childbirth, she used dark magic to transfer the baby into my womb. At first, I didn't believe it, until I hired a private investigator to look into it. After seeing the hotel check-in records of Su Jian and Lu Tingting, I finally confirmed it. Now forget about keeping one. I don't want to have any at all. I just want to divorce that scumbag as soon as possible. But at that moment, my son spoke from inside my belly again, saying he couldn't bear to leave me. He even said that once I divorced Su Jian, he would follow me and refuse to acknowledge that scumbag as his father. In the end, I still went to the hospital for the surgery and kept my son. Little did I know, this would be the beginning of my nightmare. It wasn't until the moment of my death that I realized everything was Lu Tingting's scheme. The boy in my belly was never my son. He was a demon. Worse still, I actually strangled my own daughter with my own hands. This time, I must protect my daughter and will never let anyone hurt her. 2. Leaving the hospital where Lu Tingting was, I hailed a taxi and asked the driver to take me to another hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, the doctor examined me and confirmed what Lu Tingting had said. My body truly couldn't handle 2 babies, and I had to undergo fetal reduction, leaving only one. I made a quick decision. I want a daughter, help me terminate the boy. Mom, do you not love me anymore? Why did you abort me? Am I not your baby? Don't get rid of me. Sister is the child of that bad woman. Mom, you've got it wrong. Hearing me say that, my stomach immediately reacted, starting to punch and kick me, as if it wanted to tear my belly apart. The doctor's eyes showed a hint of shock. Are you sure you want to keep the daughter? I lifted my shirt and showed him my undulating belly. Look at this boy. He's been giving me trouble since I got pregnant, never listening. A daughter is better, she's my little angel. As soon as I finished speaking, the little rascal in my belly immediately settled down, not daring to make any rash moves, afraid I might abort him. Mom, I'm sorry. I love you, Mom. Please don't abandon me. I just really wanted to come out and meet you. I let out a cold laugh, wanting to meet his real mother as soon as possible. As for me, I'm just a vessel, all right, as long as you've thought it through. Go ahead and get the checkup first, before the surgery. It's necessary to confirm the physical condition, so the doctor asked me to undergo several tests first, because I was eager to terminate this little bastard. I spent the whole day running around the hospital's examination rooms, undergoing tests, and picking up results. Your physical condition is quite good. I can schedule the surgery for the day after tomorrow. Hearing the doctor's words, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Just 2 more days, and I could escape the tragic fate of my previous life. What surgery? The next second, a familiar voice rang out, making my hair stand on end. I turned around in disbelief. Outside the office, I saw Su Jian and Lu Tingting standing together. How did you get here? I blurted out without thinking. Su Jian walked in with a gloomy expression, snatching the examination sheet from my hand. You're going to get rid of my child, sister-in-law. Why didn't you come to me if you wanted the surgery? Luckily, you ran into my senior today, or it would have been a disaster. Lu Tingting stepped forward and said to the doctor across from me, sorry, senior, for causing you trouble. Cold sweat instantly broke out on my forehead. I suddenly pinched my thigh and threw myself into Su Jian's arms, sobbing, honey, it wasn't me who wanted to abort our baby. It was Tingting who said my body couldn't carry both of them, and one had to be terminated. I just couldn't bear it. So I wanted to find a new doctor to check again. Sister-in-law, I'm doing this for your own good, and you don't even trust me. Lu Tingting stomped her foot in anger. Besides, I heard from my senior brother that you want to abort the boy. Jian's family has had a single male line for 5 generations. How can you let their family line die out? I pretended to be startled and hid in Su Jian's arms. That's because you said girls absorb 2 portions of nutrients, making them stronger, while boys are weak, and the baby would be sickly if born, so it's better to abort it. Now, Su Jian frowned at me. You should have discussed this with me first. How could you come to the hospital for surgery on your own? Let's go home first. Now that both of them are here, I can only go with them. The surgery issue will have to be discussed further. 3. Back home, hearing that I needed to reduce the pregnancy, my parents-in-law rushed over. Absolutely not aborting the boy. Our Su family must have a son to carry on the family line. My father-in-law slammed the table. I sat on the sofa, constantly wiping away tears, looking like a wronged little wife. I don't want to either. They're both flesh of my flesh. I don't want to abort either of them. But what if, when the time comes, the child turns out to be sickly, unable to carry anything or bear burdens, or even infertile? Then wouldn't the Su family's lineage still end in my hands? Now, just beat the boy and let the girl be born. In 2 years, when I've recovered, I can have another healthy boy. How wonderful that would be. I spoke in sobs, secretly observing their expressions. Sure enough, upon hearing my words, my in-laws both wore thoughtful expressions. No, you can't hit the boy. Lu Tingting jumped out to stop it. Sister-in-law, your health has never been good to begin with. Who knows if you'll be able to have another child after this one. Don't worry, I'll help you regulate your body, and I'm sure you'll give birth to a healthy boy. To add credibility to her words, she added, don't forget, back when you couldn't get pregnant for years, it was me who helped you conceive twins right away. That's right, keep the boy, let Tingting help you regulate your body. It'll definitely work out. Now everyone believed his words, and my father-in-law slammed the table, making the decision for me. But they all forgot, I'm the one who's pregnant, and as long as I don't want to, no one can take my child away. No, I can't let either of these children go. Tingting, since you can help me regulate my body, can you help me keep both of them? I threw the question to Lu Tingting. This might be a bit difficult, and you could be in mortal danger when the time comes. which would be more trouble than it's worth. It's okay, I can trade my own life for my children's lives, as long as both of them can be healthy. Lu Tingting and Su Jian exchanged glances but didn't agree right away. It seemed they were out of ideas and needed to discuss things behind my back. If I can't keep both of them, I might as well die. I decided to add fuel to the fire and made a move as if I were about to rush toward the balcony. At that moment, no one dared to act recklessly, and Lu Tingting had no choice but to reluctantly agree to help me with my recovery. Not long after, Lu Tingting came to my house with a large bag of medicine, urging me to take it every day. As missing even a single day could be life-threatening, I took a sharp breath and nodded solemnly. Don't worry, I will. To thank Lu Tingting, Su Jian invited her to stay for dinner. After the meal, Su Jian drove home, and I returned to my room, lying on the bed to examine the medicine Lu Tingting had given me. At this moment, the little bastard in my belly started deliberately guiding me again. Mom must take the medicine properly, so both my sister and I can survive. My sister and I really want to meet Mom soon. These words made me realize that this medicine must be problematic and absolutely must not be taken, for I took out my phone and opened Su Jian's car surveillance. As soon as I opened it, I saw her and Lu Tingting hugging and kissing each other. Will that medicine work? Su Jian asked. Don't worry, I had a master make it. As long as Xia Tong eats it, it will enhance our son's ability to absorb nutrients. Then, we can absorb all the nutrition from Xia Tong and that girl, and our son will surely grow up plump and healthy. Hearing those words, a chill ran through her. Lu Tingting indeed had ill intentions, wanting this bastard to be born on the corpses of me and my daughter. I will never let her have her way. Su Jian nodded with satisfaction. Once Xia Tong is dead, we'll hold the wedding right away. Mom and Dad won't have anything more to say, and from then on, our family of 3 can live happily together. Great, Brother Jian, it's all my fault. I couldn't have children, which is why we've wasted all these years for nothing. Soon enough, we'll truly be together. So that's how it is, from the very beginning. Su Jian being with me was all part of a scheme. In his eyes, I am nothing more than a surrogate tool. I was so furious that my whole body trembled, wishing I could tear those 2 scoundrels into pieces. Since they want my life, let's fight it out and see who survives until the end. To preserve the family lineage of the Su clan, Su Jian personally supervised me every day, making sure I took the medicine that Lu Tingting gave me, and even made me open my mouth for inspection, afraid that I might secretly spit it out. I wasn't afraid at all. I took the medicine on time every day, never missing a single dose. Because I'm carrying 2 babies, my belly is already as big as if I'm about to give birth. Even though I'm only 7 months pregnant, I went to the hospital for a prenatal checkup. After pretending to examine me, Lu Tingting happily said, "Sister-in-law, your health condition is very good now. You can wait until full term for a natural delivery. She's really good at lying without even preparing a script. If I gave birth naturally, I wouldn't just endure tremendous pain, I'd probably die right there on the hospital bed." Really, that's wonderful. I've heard that babies born naturally are smarter. Just a few days later was the father-in-law's birthday, and to celebrate this double joyous occasion, Su Jian specially booked a table at an outside restaurant and invited some relatives and friends to celebrate. On my birthday, I arrived late, still clutching a handful of photos, in front of our relatives. I slammed the photo hard onto Su Jian's face. "You bastard, you actually cheated on me behind my back." The photos flew through the air, and everyone present grabbed one, clearly seeing that the people on them were Su Jian and Lu Tingting. My parents also saw the photo and rushed forward to punch Su Jian. "Bastard, Tong Tong is still carrying your child in her belly." Su Jian looked momentarily bewildered, then immediately rushed over to explain. "Honey, listen to me," but I let out a scream, clutching my stomach as I collapsed. "Oh, my stomach hurts so much. I'm going to give birth. Help, how could it be time to give birth already? It's only 7 months. There's still time." Su Jian was so anxious he didn't know what to do. "It hurts so much. I'm really going into labor." 5. A group of people hastily lifted me into the car, preparing to take me to the hospital. "Go to the First People's Hospital. Tingting is there," Su Jian shouted. My mother slapped him directly across the face. "What do you mean? Let your mistress deliver my daughter's baby. Who knows what harm she might do to my daughter." My mother directed the driver to go to another hospital. Su Jian was both angry and anxious, not daring to say a word, and could only secretly notify Lu Tingting on his phone. I secretly observed all of this, forcing out a smile. Upon arriving at the hospital, I was quickly wheeled into the delivery room. Based on my condition, the doctor prepared to perform a Caesarean section. Everything happening now was completely beyond Su Jian's expectations. He tightly grabbed the doctor's hand and said, "Doctor, my wife is only 7 months pregnant, she can't give birth now, can she? The patient's condition is very critical. If we delay any further, it could very likely result in 3 lives lost, although it's not yet full term. Our hospital's pediatricians will be on standby for consultation, and we will do everything in our power to save both children." "Then you must save the son first, doctor, save the boy first." Su Jian didn't care that others were present and blurted out to save his son. The doctor, having seen such situations many times, said nothing, only stating that he would do his best, then walked into the operating room. Shortly after the doctor went in, Lu Tingting also arrived. "What's the situation now, Brother Jian?" She still didn't know that her affair with Su Jian had been exposed, so she didn't notice that everyone around was looking at her with strange expressions. "You little wretch, it must be you who seduced my son. If anything happens to my grandson, I'll take your life." The mother-in-law lunged forward, grabbing Lu Tingting's hair and screaming abuse. "Mother-in-law, don't worry, Tong Tong is the great hero of our family. We will never allow this person to enter our home." Although my parents were also furious, they were more worried about me, so they just nodded and stared anxiously at the operating room door. "Brother Jian, save me, save me." Lu Tingting cried out for help, but with so many people present, Su Jian dared not defend her and could only watch helplessly. Soon, the door to the operating room opened, and a doctor walked out carrying a child. A crowd rushed forward, and Lu Tingting quickly dashed over as well upon seeing the fair and chubby baby in the swaddling clothes. Lu Tingting was so excited that she completely forgot the pain in her body and reached out to hold the child. "Son, let me hug you," she blurted out. "Is he your son? Then you take him. What kind of person are you? Get out, get out. My daughter-in-law doesn't want to see you." The mother-in-law pushed her and pointed at her nose, shouting abuse. "Let me hold my grandson. Oh, so chubby and fair, he looks so blessed." My father-in-law stepped forward to take the baby, but I had already instructed the nurse that the child must be handed over to my parents. "The baby is very healthy, weighing 6 pounds and 3 ounces, even healthier than many full-term babies." My mother took the baby, glanced at it, and then asked, "Nurse, where is my daughter, and what about the other child?" At the mention of this, the nurse's expression instantly turned serious. "Due to the premature birth, the other child is very weak, weighing only 2 pounds. The mother's condition isn't good either. She's currently being resuscitated." 6. Seeing the plump, fair-skinned baby come out, Su Jian no longer had any reservations and spoke up. "Only 2 pounds, then it probably won't survive, right? Maybe we should give up on saving it, just focus on saving my wife." Lu Tingting also echoed his words. Yes, I'm a doctor. A premature baby weighing 2 pounds is hard to save. Even if we manage to save it, it will cost hundreds of thousands of yuan. It's just a girl. She's not worth it at all." At that moment, my in-laws also calmed down, their expressions troubled. "Where are we going to get so much money? If we spend it and manage to save her, that's fine, but what if we can't save her?" That clearly meant they didn't want to save her. My parents were just about to say something when Su Jian interrupted. "Mom, Dad, what matters most now is Tong Tong. Are we really going to abandon the mother for a premature baby? No, we want both the mother and the child, no matter how much it costs. As long as we can save the baby, it's worth it." My mother didn't get swayed by their words. Instead, she stood firm in her judgment. The nurse nodded. "Don't worry, we'll do our best, no matter who was saved." It wouldn't be good for Lu Tingting and Su Jian. Lu Tingting quickly asked the nurse, "Can we let the mother's husband go in to stay with her? Maybe that could strengthen her will to survive." Su Jian understood what she meant and pretended to be deeply emotional. "Yes, let me go in and stay with my wife. I can't live without her." Just as the nurse was about to speak, the door behind her opened again. "Where's Xia Tong's family? Hurry up and sign. Your son's condition is not good." The doctor ran out holding a critical illness notice. As soon as those words were spoken, the air seemed to freeze. "What, son?" Lu Tingting was the first to speak. "That's impossible. You must be mistaken. Isn't our son right here?" The nurse, too impatient to argue, tapped the paper in her hand. "What's the matter?" "The daughter came out first, the son came after, and he only weighed 2 pounds. Sign this quickly. He's in critical condition and must be rushed to the neonatal intensive care unit immediately." Hearing this, my mother pushed aside the baby's swaddling and glanced at her lower body, then exclaimed in surprise, "Oh no, we've made a mistake. this is my granddaughter, not my grandson. Everything else can be faked, but gender can't." After making sure everyone had seen, my mother wrapped the swaddling bag around the baby and said to Su Jian, "A 2-pound baby won't survive, right? Maybe we should just give up." "No, you must save my son. No matter how much it costs, you have to save him. Hurry and call your hospital's experts for a consultation." Lu Tingting screamed, her expression wild, her eyeballs seeming to bulge out of her sockets. The nurse looked at her in confusion. "You've got it wrong. This isn't your son. Where's the father? Make a decision quickly." "It's mine. This is my son. Save him now, or I'll kill you all." 7. My mother held her daughter and said to the in-laws, "In-laws, I think this woman is crazy. My daughter is still inside, and she's already trying to snatch the child. Don't forget, whose fault is it that the child is so weak now?" The mother-in-law pulled Lu Tingting away and slapped her directly. "You jinx, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, would my grandson have been born prematurely? Get out of here now, doctor. You must save my son. You must save him." After Su Jian came to his senses, he signed the critical condition notice. "Enough, stop fighting. What's the point of saying all this now?" He separated his mother-in-law and Lu Tingting, sitting down on a chair in dejection. "Oh, my poor grandson, you've really suffered, all because of this jinx." The premature baby was quickly placed in an incubator and wheeled out, ready to be sent to the pediatric department. Because he was so underweight, he was barely the size of my palm, lying there struggling even to breathe, as if he might not make it. Lu Tingting was desperate, almost wanting to rush forward, but her reason told her that the baby must be treated immediately. Otherwise there could be a life-threatening situation. After the doctor stitched up the incision on my abdomen, they pushed me out. The first thing I did when I woke up was to see my child. Fortunately, my mother had heard me and had been holding the baby tightly, not letting go at all. Su Jian and the others were also worried about the premature infant undergoing rescue treatment and had no mind to check on their daughter. Holding my plump, fair-skinned daughter in my arms, I couldn't help but shed tears. Fortunately, this time, I managed to save my daughter. After I realized that the medicine Lu Tingting gave me was problematic, I immediately took a sample and gave it to my parents, asking them to help investigate what was wrong. If Lu Tingting could get this stuff, others could too. She wanted that bastard to drain the nutrients from both me and my daughter, but I refused to let her have her way. I swapped all the medicine that Lu Tingting gave me. Every dose I took was actually designed to help my daughter absorb more nutrients, absorbing not just her own share, but also that of the bastard. But as the doctor had said, if I waited until full term, I would still die. So I injected oxytocin early, calculated the timing precisely, and went into labor in front of everyone. Others would only think I had been triggered by discovering Su Jian's affair. In the afternoon, my parents came home to prepare my postpartum meals, and I was alone in the hospital room, playing with my daughter. Just then, the door opened. Lu Tingting walked in with a gloomy expression, looking at the child in my arms. A flicker of malice flashed in her eyes. "How could this happen? Are you behind this? Now that the child has been born, there's no need to keep up the act anymore." I held my daughter tightly in my arms and sneered. "The thief cries, 'Stop thief.' I've never seen someone as shameless as you. What? You have time to come to my hospital room and act crazy, but no time to go to the pediatric ward to see that sickly little bastard. You already know. It's you who's behind this. You're the one who ruined my son," Lu Tingting shouted, pointing at me. "Don't go crazy. You hurt me first. I'm just fighting back. Let me remind you, I'm still the biological mother of that little bastard, so I can end his treatment any time and send him to his death. You dare? That's my son. Who would believe you if you said that?" 8. Lu Tingting couldn't bear it anymore and rushed forward to hit me, but I was holding my daughter in my arms, so I immediately shouted for help. The nurse rushed in and pulled her away, and I immediately took out my phone to call the police. The police arrested Lu Tingting and were going to detain her for several days. Now Su Jian became anxious. He had already been exhausted from treating the little brat, and now Lu Tingting was in jail, since she was the child's biological mother. He quickly came to me to plead for mercy. "Bastard, I'm still in confinement, and you're already here pleading for your mistress. How shameless can you be?" I slapped him repeatedly, hitting him over a dozen times in quick succession, only stopping when my palms went numb. Tingting was just too worried about the child. That's why she lashed out at you. But what about you? You're always holding our daughter. Have you ever thought about our son, who's still being resuscitated downstairs? Su Jian tried to guilt-trip me, but unfortunately, I wasn't falling for it. This is my own daughter. Of course I have to hold her. As for that little bastard downstairs, I wish he were dead. Su Jian's eyes darted around a couple of times, and he realized that I already knew everything. There was no use saying anything more. If you want me to let Lu Tingting go, sign the divorce papers. There's no need for us to continue like this. I took out the divorce agreement I had prepared earlier and placed it in front of him. What right do you have to make me leave with? Nothing. There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. I won't agree. After seeing the terms above, Su Jian tore the agreement into pieces. If you have the guts, go ahead and sue. Otherwise, don't even think about divorce. I had anticipated his reaction, so I wasn't surprised. Lu Tingting was released after being detained for a few days. After that, she still wanted to visit the child in the hospital, but she could only do so secretly. As for me, I couldn't even get close to the ward. That little bastard is really tough. After some emergency treatment, his condition actually stabilized. The doctor said that with proper care, he can grow up just like a normal child. This won't do. I can't allow any factors that might affect my daughter to exist. The nurse in the neonatal department asked me to buy some clothes and bottles for the little bastard and bring them in. I bought a bunch of cheap stuff online and handed it over to the nurse. This won't work. These clothes aren't pure cotton. The baby will have an allergic reaction. And the bottles are too big for a child this age. I rolled my eyes. Make do with it. A sickly kid has no right to be so picky. All the good stuff is for my daughter. He doesn't deserve it. Although the nurse wanted to persuade me, seeing my unreasonable motherly attitude, she didn't want to cause trouble for herself. She took the items and left. Lu Tingting was hiding in the corner, and hearing me say this nearly made her furious. But this was just the beginning. Later, I bought imported high-end formula for my daughter online, while I got the little bastard 2 bottles of AD calcium milk to make do. My daughter used silk diapers, while the little bastard used bulk recycled ones bought online, which left his bottom red and swollen after use. Lu Tingting watched her son being mistreated by me like this, and she was so anxious she was pacing in circles. How dare you use such poor quality things on my son? Unable to hold back any longer, she rushed up to me and demanded an answer. Because I'm his mother now, I'll use whatever I want on him, and this is just the beginning. Since this little bastard has become my son, I will definitely take good care of him. I deliberately emphasized the words, take good care, and Lu Tingting stared at me, her eyes filled with terror. That little bastard is still in the hospital. If I take him home, he probably won't survive more than a few days in my hands. She bought something new for the nurse to take to the child, but when the nurse asked her what her relationship was with the child, she couldn't answer. Now the nurse didn't dare to accept her things, fearing the child might have problems using them. No matter how she explained, no one believed her, and she was even treated as a child trafficker, with people threatening to call the police to arrest her. Your wound needs to be changed. Come with us. In the afternoon, I was breastfeeding the baby when a nurse knocked on my door to inform me. I nodded, soothed the baby to sleep, placed him back in the crib, covered him with a blanket, and left with the nurse. When I returned, I saw Lu Tingting kneeling by the crib, holding the swaddled baby, and sobbing uncontrollably. 9. My son, Mom is sorry. Su Jian rushed in. What's wrong? What happened? Why are you crying? My son, my son. Su Jian felt something was definitely off. He stepped forward, opened the swaddling clothes, and inside was not the daughter they had expected, but the son they had been longing for. At this moment, the little bastard had completely stopped breathing, his face turning purple, clearly suffocated to death. How could it be a son? Wasn't it supposed to be a daughter? Su Jian was so terrified his legs gave way, collapsing onto the ground, muttering unconsciously. Just then, a nurse walked in and, seeing the body they were holding, immediately tried to take it for resuscitation. What's going on? How could this child suddenly die when he was perfectly fine just moments ago? Xia Tong. It's you. Why would you lay a hand on a child? He was just born. Su Jian's eyes darted around, instantly shifting the blame onto me. I was so angry I laughed outright. Are you out of your mind? I was just called away by a nurse to change my dressing. How could I have done anything to him? You must have done it before changing your dressing. Everyone knows you don't like this child. Who else could be so heartless? Indeed, as he said, everyone in the hospital knew I didn't like this little bastard, always focusing only on my daughter. Everyone immediately cast suspicious glances at me. Xia Tong, if you don't like him, you can give him to me to raise. I can't have children, and I've always dreamed of having one. Why are you so heartless? After realizing what had happened, Lu Tingting also started crying and shouting at me. Such sincere and heartfelt words nearly moved everyone around to tears, and I just looked at them with a mocking smile, even clapping for them. You too should. Really go into acting, you'd definitely win awards. If I hadn't been prepared, you might have actually succeeded. I walked to the bedside and retrieved a hidden camera from a bouquet of flowers a friend had sent. Please help me call the police. There's been an attempted murder here, and I have evidence. I said to the nurse, you think the one sleeping here is my daughter? Fool, I cherish her so much, how could I possibly leave her alone? Before I left, I deliberately covered the child's head with a blanket, leaving only a small gap for breathing, to avoid leaving fingerprints and to easily shift the blame onto me. Lu Tingting didn't lift the blanket to check, but instead strangled her own son through the blanket. The baby in the swaddling clothes wriggled a few times, then went still. She wanted to confirm whether the child was truly dead, so she lifted the blanket, only to discover it wasn't my daughter inside. The police arrived and arrested the adulterous couple. Lu Tingting, in an attempt to mitigate her guilt, claimed that she had strangled her own child, saying she only wanted to end his suffering because he was in too much pain. If they didn't believe her, they could conduct a paternity test. Although the police found it strange, they still went to the hospital to investigate, only to discover that the child had already been cremated by me, and the ashes had been scattered into the sea, leaving no trace behind. Lu Tingting's hope for a paternity test was shattered. I had anticipated this move of hers. As the biological mother listed on this little bastard's household register, I naturally have the right to decide how his body should be handled. Upon hearing this news, Lu Tingting was utterly devastated and confessed everything. Su Jian, as a co-conspirator, could not escape either. What awaits these two is nothing but a prison sentence. On the other hand, took advantage of our marital relationship to sell a significant portion of Su Jian's assets, converting them all into cash and transferring them under my daughter's name. Since he refused to divorce, I naturally had to maximize my benefits. In the end, Lu Tingting, as the principal offender, was sentenced to life imprisonment, while Su Jian received a 10-year sentence. What a bargain for him. 10 years later, my daughter has already started elementary school, and Su Jian has been released from prison. He wanted to come find me and our daughter, but we had already moved away long ago. Over the past decade, the city had undergone many changes, and both his parents were gone. In such a vast city, he couldn't even find a place to stay. Later, while fighting over territory with other homeless people under a bridge, he was surrounded and beaten to death by a group. His body wasn't discovered until it had already begun to decay. That area was remote and desolate, with no surveillance cameras, making it difficult to find the perpetrators. As a family member, I decided to give up on searching for the killers, hoping he could be reincarnated sooner. Such a scum isn't worth any of my thoughts or efforts. From now on, I'll live well with my daughter. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. I was reborn back into my mother's womb at 8 months pregnant. In the darkness, enveloped by the warm amniotic fluid, everything around me was silent, with only the occasional faint sound reminding me that this was not a dream. The painful experiences of my past life haunted me like a nightmare. I lived in a fishing village by the sea. My father was a fishmonger at the dock, and my mother worked as a laborer in a soap factory. In this family, where the preference for sons over daughters was deeply ingrained, from the moment I was born, my fate was sealed as inferior to that of my twin brother, Wang Yaozu. My parents often said, a married daughter is like water splashed out. Everything in this house belongs to your brother, and you must always support him. This phrase, like a tightening curse, brainwashed me for 30 years. For Wang Yaozu, I, who had excellent grades, was forced to give up the college entrance exam and was arranged by my parents to work in a manufacturing factory, forever losing the chance to change my fate. When I first fell in love, my parents used me as a bargaining chip and married me off to a scoundrel in the village, plunging my life into an endless abyss of suffering. Later, I worked tirelessly day and night, and my health deteriorated until I fell seriously ill and was hospitalized. However, my parents showed no concern for my medical expenses and even discussed my funeral arrangements with that scoundrel of a husband, scheming to collect condolence money. At that moment, I was utterly despaired, feeling that my life was worthless, as if I were merely a tool for making money and an object for receiving a bride price in this family, never truly regarded as a daughter or a sister. In endless pain and despair, I chose to end my own life, and my brother, Wang Yaozu, in my previous life, stood by indifferently, reaping the benefits of the value I had created for him, yet never offering me the slightest bit of care or help. In this life, I swear I will never repeat the same mistakes. Feeling Wang Yaozu curled up with me in my belly, a surge of determination rose within me. In the darkness, I struggled with all my might, rolling my body in an attempt to reach his umbilical cord. My movements were slow and difficult, as in this soft womb, my body was almost uncontrollable, but I did not give up. After several days of effort, I finally managed to wrap his umbilical cord around his neck, just 2 loops. I dared not wrap it any tighter, fearing I might accidentally strangle him and incur the hatred of my parents and grandmother, who would then label me a jinx and throw me into the sea. At the same time, I kept rolling and shifting our positions. I wanted to be the older sister. In this life, I will take control of my own destiny and also change Wang Yaozu's way of thinking. With the mother's cry of pain in the delivery room, Wang Yaozu and I were finally born. This time, I got my wish and became the older sister. As the nurse picked me up, I coughed out the remaining amniotic fluid from my lungs and burst into loud cries. In my previous life, due to a tightly wrapped umbilical cord, I was frail from a young age and struggled for a long time in the delivery room before I could cry out. In this life, Wang Yaozu had the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and his physical condition was noticeably much worse. The doctor and nurse struggled for a long time before I faintly heard his weak, unimpressive cry. I was wrapped in swaddling clothes and taken away by someone. At that moment, Grandma's familiar yet venomous voice rang out, "Pa, a worthless girl." The voice seemed muffled, as if stuffed into a sealed jar, vaguely reaching my ears. Immediately after, I felt myself being carelessly tossed onto a hard surface, likely the wooden bench outside the waiting room. I imagined that at this moment, that wicked old woman must be holding Wang Yaozu with my heartless father, grinning from ear to ear, while I, their newborn daughter, am treated with such contempt. By the age of 3, I had already begun doing household chores within my ability, just as I had in my previous life. In my past life, when the umbilical cord was wrapped tightly around me, my grandmother would always say viciously, "Why wasn't she strangled to death back then?" In this life, she once again shifts the blame onto me, saying, "You bringer of misfortune, if it weren't for her, why would my precious grandson be in such poor health?" Wang Yaozu's health was indeed very poor. A bit of cold wind would give him a cold, a sip of cool water would cause diarrhea, a yawn could dislocate his jaw, and a single cough would leave him breathless, like a fragile porcelain doll. And because of this, my standing at home grew even lower. However, I wasn't about to let myself be bullied. Whenever the house was empty or the adults weren't looking, I would give Wang Yaozu a good beating, starting from when I was 6 months old and could roll over. This almost became my daily, persistent activity. At first, my family thought I was just too young to understand, but later they realized I was doing it on purpose. Wang Yaozu would often go crying to the adults to complain, and as a result, my parents and grandmother would beat me severely. But I never cried. I just stared coldly at Wang Yaozu, and the next time, I would hit him even harder. After a few rounds, he finally understood that complaining would only make me beat him worse, so he obediently kept his mouth shut. I knew this was a habitual mindset cultivated from childhood, just like training a dog. As long as I persisted, I could imprint a fear of me into his mind, so that even if his physical strength surpassed mine in the future, he wouldn't dare to resist me easily. Of course, I didn't just bully him all the time. As the saying goes, a slap followed by a sweet date. While bullying him, I also did my utmost to protect him outside. Wang Yaozu had been frail and sickly since childhood. Starting from kindergarten, other kids often picked on him. Whenever I heard his cries, would rush like a madwoman to his classroom, beating up the bullies until they wailed like wounded dogs. Even the teachers couldn't hold me back. Over time, I became the school's notorious, crazy woman, and everyone knew Wang Yaozu had a deranged older sister who would defend him without any principles. Wang Yaozu must have been torn inside. On one hand, he feared me, afraid I would beat him up. On the other hand, whenever he was bullied, the first person he thought of was me, longing for my protection. My parents were also pleased with my almost fanatical protectiveness toward my younger brother, until an incident in the second semester of 5th grade changed everything. That day, I went to the bike shed to get my bicycle, only to witness a scene that filled me with rage. Several boys from our class had cornered Wang Yaozu by the bikes, not only pulling down his pants but also kicking and punching him. I went completely berserk and charged at them. My fierce reputation preceded me, and those boys were terrified at the sight of me. One of them, who was too slow to run away, got kicked by me right in the ribs, fracturing them on the spot. That night, the injured boy's parents came to our door demanding an explanation. My father apologized profusely and even paid for the medical expenses. Then, he grabbed the shoulder pole used for carrying water and, right in front of the boy's parents, jabbed it hard into me. He only stopped when I coughed up a mouthful of blood, finally feeling a twinge of fear. As for me, from start to finish, I stared at him with unblinking eyes, neither crying nor trying to dodge. Finally, it was Wang Yaozu who tearfully recounted the incident in front of me that made my father reluctantly drop the carrying pole, still cursing. "All you ever do is cause trouble for the family. Do you know how long it takes to earn that money? You bring nothing but misfortune. I should have thrown you into the sea to drown from the start." Even though he knew I was protecting Wang Yaozu, he still couldn't let go of the medical expenses that had to be paid. Placing all the blame squarely on my shoulders, that night, I was punished with no dinner and had to go feed the cows in the yard. Just as I was filled with resentment, Wang Yaozu ran over and secretly slipped me 2 pieces of date cake. It was the first time in my life I had ever tasted date cake. In this household, such ordinary treats had always been reserved only for the son. I wolfed down 2 pieces of date cake, then reached out and slapped him hard across the face, asking, "Do you know why I hit you?" He lowered his head, not daring to look at me. "I know, I should have spoken up from the start about being bullied," I said coldly. "Get out." Throughout the 3 years of junior high, my grades were consistently at the top of the class. Although Wang Yaozu wasn't as good as me, he still maintained above-average grades. That year, something happened at home that made me happy. The grandmother who had wanted to throw me into the sea since the day I was born died. Finally, there was one less person in this family tormenting me. At the funeral, Wang Yaozu cried as if his heart would break, while I watched everything around me with an expressionless face from start to finish. Wang Yaozu sat beside me, crying, and said, "I'll never see Grandma again." He mistakenly thought I would empathize with him. I coldly tossed out a line, "What the hell does that have to do with me?" He looked up in shock, meeting my resentful gaze, then lowered his head with a dark expression. I thought he must have remembered how Grandma used to curse me, the jinx, with her venomous words. During the class placement exam in 9th grade, I secured a spot in the advanced class with the top score in my grade. In the office, the homeroom teacher sat in his chair, nodding with satisfaction as he looked over my test paper, but when he looked up again, I saw undisguised regret in his eyes. He glanced once more at the test paper in his hand and said, "Wang Zhaodi, if only you were a boy." At that moment, it felt as if all the blood in my body had frozen. A teacher, who should have been a gardener nurturing the flowers of the future, was actually swayed by such stubborn and narrow-minded patriarchal thinking. Looking at his face, I seemed to see my parents, my deceased grandmother, and the women in the village who swaggered about after giving birth to sons. I could no longer hear what the teacher said afterward. I just kept telling myself in my heart that I must get out, that I must never return to this place full of prejudice and injustice. During a self-study class one day, while I was working on a problem, I suddenly felt a warmth below and realized it was my first period, but by then, my pants were already stained red with blood. I wrapped my shirt around my waist, asked the teacher for leave, and hurried home to change my pants. Pushing open the courtyard gate, my mother was working in the yard. When she saw me, she asked, "Why are you back?" But the next second, noticing the bloodstains on my pants, she immediately walked over and slapped me hard across the face, cursing, "You disgraceful thing, have you no shame at all?" She kept pointing at the pants, scolding me endlessly. I simply ignored her, went inside to change into a clean pair of pants, then soaked the bloodstained school uniform in water and began scrubbing it. She was still scolding from the side, "You spendthrift, a school uniform costs over 200 yuan, how can you have no common sense at all?" I found it amusing. So in her mind, this kind of physiological knowledge could be learned without any guidance. I stopped washing the clothes, looked up, and asked her for money. "Give me money, I need to buy sanitary pads." But she sneered, "You think you deserve it, a pack costs over 10 yuan, enough for a whole meal." She doesn't mind spending money on her own sanitary pads, but she tries to save on me. I simply bypass her and go straight to the cabinet to dig out her pads to use. She doesn't dare stop me, because ever since I started middle school, I've learned to fight back. She can't gain any advantage, so she can only stand in the yard and curse at me. But that bloodstain still left a mark. There was no other way. The next day, I had to wear a school uniform pants with a bloodstain to class. My parents clearly aren't short of money at home, yet they refused to buy me a new pair of school uniform pants. The next day, as I walked through the school gate wearing the pants with the stubborn bloodstain, mocking voices followed me. "Oh my, the top student in the grade is bleeding." A wave of laughter immediately erupted around me. I quickened my pace, wanting to get away from these people as fast as possible. but suddenly, the sound of a scuffle broke out behind me. I turned around and saw Wang Yaozu charging over, punching the boy who had mocked me right in the face. The boy was tall and burly, while Wang Yaozu was thin and frail, no match at all. He was quickly pinned to the ground, and the other boy began throwing punches at his face. Seeing this, I was furious. I rushed forward and kicked the boy in the neck, knocking him off Wang Yaozu. Then, I grabbed his neck with all my might, unleashing all the pent-up anger I had accumulated over this period. The boy's eyes reflected a glimmer of fear, and he even forgot to resist. Wang Yaozu hugged me from behind, pulling me back with all his strength, shouting, "Sister, let go, you'll strangle him to death." He pulled me away, and the boy collapsed on the ground, coughing desperately, his eyes filled with terror. I broke free from Wang Yaozu's grip, charged forward again, and kicked the boy in the face, snarling, "You can laugh at me all you want, but if you dare lay a finger on my brother, I'll kill you." After saying that, I turned around and slapped Wang Yaozu hard across the face, cursing, "And you, what kind of big-shot eagle are you pretending to be when you've got no guts?" He was already used to getting slapped by me. He just glanced at the onlookers and whispered, "I just couldn't stand them laughing at you." I pointed at the teaching building and shouted, "Get to class, now." After the middle school entrance exams, both Wang Yaozu and I were admitted to the city's top high school. The difference was, I ranked first in the entire city, while Wang Yaozu placed 329th. I was able to smoothly enter the top high school entirely thanks to the 30,000 yuan in financial aid that the Education Bureau delivered with great fanfare. That day, for the first time, I saw on my parents' faces the smiles they usually reserved only for Wang Yaozu. I knew in my heart that they were smiling for that 30,000 yuan, smiling because they could finally hold their heads high in the village, not because they were proud of their daughter. Thus, throughout my 3 years of high school, I studied even harder, almost to the point of obsession. Every winter and summer vacation was the most difficult time for me. Not only did I have to help with work by the sea, but I also had to take care of all the household chores. However, Wang Yaozu used just one sentence to exempt me from all labor for the entire 3 years of high school. He said to our parents, "All my classmates are taking extra classes. My sister is the top student in her grade. Let her tutor me during the holidays. It'll save us the tutoring fees." Upon hearing this, our parents were overjoyed, praising him for growing up and becoming sensible, for understanding how hard it was for them to earn money. Only I knew that he did it to give me more time to study. I, too, knew how to be grateful. Since starting high school, I had hardly ever hit him again. At home, we were both considered top students. Only when he encountered a problem he didn't understand and cautiously approached me for help would I try to control my emotions. I would only resort to hitting him if he didn't grasp it after the first explanation. 3 years of high school quickly came to an end, and I faced another turning point in my life, the college entrance exam. However, this time I didn't perform well, scoring 647 points. Wang Yaozu performed even worse, scoring only 490 points, a full 50 points lower than his usual mock exam results. When I returned home holding the admission letter from Peking University, what awaited me were my parents' cold expressions and a cruel decision. My younger brother Wang Yaozu failed the college entrance exam and decided to retake it for another year. As for me, the girl in their eyes who would eventually marry off, I was told to report to the manufacturing plant and start my working life. The reason was simply that I didn't rank first this time, so the Education Bureau didn't come to the village with gongs and drums to deliver a reward. What's the use of a girl studying so well anyway? She'll just get married sooner or later. Starting to earn money early means you can enjoy life sooner. Look at those who went to college. What good did it do them in the end? Father sat on the worn-out chair, exhaling a smoke ring as he spoke with an air of indifference. Mother chimed in from the side, "You're old enough now, you can't just follow your own whims. The family needs you to take on responsibility. Yaozu still has to retake his exams, and we need to save our money for him." Aunts and uncles from all sides joined in, chattering away with advice that seemed ready to drown me. "Listen to your parents and stop making a fuss." "Exactly. Hurry up and go earn money for your brother, that's what really matters." I watched as my mother began packing my things, preparing to send me to the workers' dormitory at the factory, and a wave of despair washed over me. At that moment, the admission letter in my hand felt unbearably heavy. Summoning my courage, I spoke up loudly, "I won't go work, I want to go to school." Those words seemed to ignite a fire of rage in my parents. My father rushed over and slapped me hard across the face, while my mother joined in, hitting and cursing at me. The two of them took turns beating me. Fearing I might fight back, I was covered in bruises, curled up in the corner of the room. At that moment, I felt utterly hopeless and enraged. I pulled a thick iron wire from the corner, pressed it against my neck, and said coldly, "Either let me go to college, and I'll pay you back after I graduate, or I'll die right now, and you'll have wasted over a decade raising me for nothing." The sharp end of the wire pierced my skin, and blood trickled down my collar into my clothes. My parents were stunned by my actions. They glared at me angrily but stopped hitting me. "We have no money at home, your mother's, and my wages are being saved for Yaozu. If you want to go to college, you'll have to figure out the tuition and living expenses on your own. Do you have any idea how many connections I had to pull to get you into that factory?" my father said viciously. My mother chimed in from the side, "I'm your mother. Would I ever do anything to harm you? I didn't want to waste any more words on them and asked firmly, "Do you want me dead, or do you want me to go to school?" In the end, under my pressure, they chose to compromise. However, they firmly stated they wouldn't cover my living expenses or tuition, adding, "Now is the time for you to repay your parents. The family has no money. If you want to go to college, you'll have to earn it yourself." With that, my father stood up and left the room, while my mother shot me a fierce glare before following him out. I rubbed my swollen arm, wiped the blood from my neck with a tissue, and picked up the phone to dial the admissions office number listed on my acceptance letter. When the call connected, a gentle female teacher answered on the other end. I briefly explained my situation to her, and she softly reassured me, saying, "Don't worry about anything, student, just come to the school to register first. The school will figure out the rest." Her words were like a beam of light in the darkness, giving me hope. Before hanging up, she specifically reminded me, "Girl, don't give up hope." I held back my tears and said, "I understand, thank you, teacher." During the month waiting for school to start, I went to work at the food processing factory in town. They hire short-term students during holidays, and although the pay wasn't much, it was very important to me. A month later, I received my wages, went home to pack my luggage, and realized how pitifully little I had: 1 set of bedding, 2 pairs of shoes, 3 sets of clothes, plus some personal toiletries. That was all I owned. As I was about to leave, my parents blocked the doorway again. My father, holding a cigarette, said with a righteous tone, "I've asked around. You earned over 2,000 this month. What does a girl like you need so much money for when going out? The family needs to buy feed for the cow, so hand over 1,500. I clutched the straps of my backpack tightly. This might be my living expenses for the future. Seeing this, my mother stepped forward to snatch my backpack, saying, "We can't trust you with so much money when you're out." Just as we were pulling at each other, Wang Yaozu ran in, shouting, "Our cow has run out." Upon hearing this, my parents immediately forgot about me and rushed out to chase the cow. Seizing the opportunity, Wang Yaozu grabbed my hand, led me out of the house, ducked into the nearby alley, and after winding through several turns, we arrived at the village entrance. I looked at him with confusion and asked, "You let the cow loose, didn't you? How are you going to explain it when you go back?" A flicker of cunning flashed in his eyes as he said, "I'll just say I forgot to close the gate. They won't blame me." With that, he pulled a crumpled wad of money from his pocket and stuffed it into my hand. The largest bill was 100, the smallest a single yuan. Altogether, it probably added up to 300 or 400 yuan. I haven't spent much lately, so I managed to save a bit secretly. "Take it for living expenses." I looked at him, this younger brother who had been cold and selfish in my past life, now standing before me, offering me money. I reached out my hand, and he flinched reflexively, thinking I was about to hit him, and shrank back in fear. I just wrapped my arms around his neck and said, "I'm leaving now, so study hard." His body trembled, and he hugged me, calling out, "Sis," then began to cry softly, while wiping his tears with my hand. I deliberately smeared his snot on his clothes and scolded, "Stop crying, all you know is how to cry." With that, I picked up my luggage and walked away without looking back. Hearing his voice from behind, "Sis, be careful on the road," I waved my hand casually behind my back, not daring to turn around, afraid he would see the tears that had already begun to surge uncontrollably. After a day and a night on a hard-seat train, I finally reached the terminal station. Stepping off the train, I breathed in the dry, scorching scent in the air, a smell that felt far more comforting to me than the fresh, damp air by the sea. I was finally free, finally escaped from that home that had brought me pain across 2 lifetimes. Just as I was secretly rejoicing, the luggage bag beside me was suddenly snatched up. I was startled, thinking someone was trying to rob me. "Sweetie, let me help you carry that." a voice sounded beside my ear. I looked up to see a middle-aged man around 40, with a rough, fleshy face and a menacing tattoo covering his arm beneath his short sleeve. I quickly said, no need. I reached for my bag, but he switched hands, not letting me touch it. Come on, I'll carry it for a bit. Are you here for school, all the way? I was cautiously wary of this stranger, afraid he might run off with my luggage bag. Although the bag only contained a set of bedding, it was still something very important to me. When we reached the exit, he placed the bag at my feet, grinned at me, and said, all right, off you go. Be careful out there. That smile wasn't particularly pleasant, but to me, it was the most reassuring smile I had ever seen in my life. He waved his hand and disappeared into the crowd. It wasn't until he vanished into the crowd that I snapped back to reality. I bowed gratefully in his direction and said, thank you. After changing buses twice, I finally stood at the gate of Beiyao University. A passing boy, seeing that I was a new student, enthusiastically helped me with my things and led me to the freshman registration office. I met Teacher Yang, whom I had spoken with on the phone earlier. After understanding my situation, she said she would apply for a student loan for me and kindly contacted the logistics department to arrange for me to work in the cafeteria. Since stepping onto campus, everything seemed to fall into place smoothly. The school dormitory was a double room, and my roommate was Su Ning from the next room. She was a typical northeastern girl, very warm and naturally sociable. After lights out, she giggled and slipped into my bed, switching on our nighttime chat mode. In just one evening of intense conversation, she had managed to dig out every last detail about my family background. You couldn't possibly have been picked up off the street by your parents, could you? Even if you were, they shouldn't treat you like this. She was shocked by the almost pathological favoritism towards sons in my family, and equally astonished to learn that she herself was the apple of her family's eye. My job in the cafeteria was relatively easy. I got up an hour early every day to help out, and at lunch and dinner, I worked at the serving window dishing out meals. Not only did I receive a monthly salary, but the cafeteria also provided me with 3 free meals a day, which greatly reduced my daily expenses. The cafeteria aunties had heard about my situation from Teacher Yang and were all indignant about the hardships I had endured since childhood. What kind of parents are they? They don't even deserve to be called human. So, the aunties started taking extra care of me, not allowing me to do any slightly heavy work. The chef uncle would occasionally sneak me some extra treats. This kind of warmth was something I had never felt at home. At school, no one looked down on me for working in the cafeteria. On the contrary, my classmates were envied by others because they could get larger portions of food from me than usual. When other students were getting their food, they'd shout, more, but when it came to my classmate, it was always, that's enough, I can't eat that much. Often, boys would pat their bellies, burp, and walk away while laughing and cursing. Wang Zhaodi's food is so filling it could kill a man, and she wouldn't even pay for it. Because of my work at the cafeteria window, I became the darling of the entire class. The unique warmth of the Northeasterners touched me, and I quickly integrated into the group. Here, there is no concept of favoring sons over daughters. In their understanding, it is normal to believe that women hold up half the sky. Daughters also have the right to inheritance, and within the family, their status is even higher than that of boys. When it comes to physical tasks like moving things or lifting heavy objects, the boys never let me get involved. A few times, seeing them struggle with the heavy lifting, I wanted to step in and lend a hand, but they would roughly push me back, saying, this is men's work, what are you, a woman, meddling for? Go stand aside. Although it sounded quite impatient, I felt a different kind of warmth. In November, the temperature plummeted, as if autumn had only made a brief appearance before being pushed down by winter. The weather was turning cold, and I was just about to ask Suning to go with me to the nearby market to buy a down jacket, but when she came back from home over the weekend, as soon as she walked in, she threw a large package into my arms. I opened the package. Inside were 2 pairs of thin cotton pants and a down jacket. The cotton pants were bought for me by my mom last year. They're a bit small and I haven't had a chance to exchange them. This down jacket was bought by my dad, and I really can't stand the color purple. It just takes up space at home, so you can take it off my hands. You're treating me to dinner at the cafeteria tonight. That's settled, then. We have similar figures, and those cotton pants fit me perfectly. I know that her dislike for purple is just a flimsy excuse. She gave me the clothes so I wouldn't feel burdened. Looking at the clothes in my arms, I felt a surge of emotion. Just as I was about to say thank you, Tears began to flow uncontrollably. She couldn't stand seeing me cry and quickly hugged me to smooth things over. "Oh, come on, it's just a few pieces of clothing. Is it really that big of a deal? Don't be so stingy. Forget about treating me. I'll take you out for spicy hot pot tonight. Hey, stop crying. The new year is approaching, and I've welcomed my first winter break of college." The students began to leave the school one after another. I didn't go home because I was afraid that once I returned, I might lose the chance to come back to campus. Moreover, my parents never called me even once. To them, as long as I didn't ask them for money, they didn't care how I was doing. Only Wang Yaozu would occasionally sneak a call to me, but it was just to report on his study progress. Usually, after a few words, he would hang up. Fortunately, the dormitory was open, so I could continue living at school. As the spring festival approached, I specifically bought 2 bags of frozen dumplings and stored them in the cafeteria freezer, planning to sneak into the cafeteria on New Year's Eve to cook myself a meal of dumplings. Just as I was looking forward to the dumplings on New Year's Eve, the dorm room door suddenly swung open. Su Ning walked in and, without a word, grabbed a down jacket and started putting it on me, saying, "My mom wants you to come home with me for the new year." I repeatedly declined, but she practically dragged me into a taxi. Then, at her home, I witnessed a scene I would never forget for the rest of my life. In the kitchen, Su Ning's father was busy stir-frying, wearing a pink apron. When he saw me arrive, he poked his head out of the kitchen, greeted me with a cheerful smile, and then ducked back inside. This was something I never could have imagined. In my own home, my father and brother never lifted a finger for any household chores. All the housework and farm work fell on my mother and me. Sometimes, when my mother went to work at the factory, all these tasks landed squarely on my shoulders. The aunt pulled me to sit on the living room sofa, saying with heartfelt sympathy, "How did this girl get so thin? How could parents be so heartless?" She held my hand and said, "Once you're here, it's just like being in your own home. If you want to eat anything, just tell me, and I'll have your uncle make it for you." I asked softly, "Don't I need to go help uncle in the kitchen?" The aunt waved her hand dismissively and said, "What help? If a grown man can't even cook a meal without help, what use is he to me?" At the dinner table on New Year's Eve, my uncle brought out a bottle of wine, and my aunt placed a piece of braised pork bone in my bowl, saying, "Eat more, it'll nourish you." Su Ning held a braised bone nearly as big as her palm in her hand, gnawing on it until her mouth was shiny with oil. My uncle poured me a glass of wine and said with a cheerful smile, "Try my cooking, though I'm not sure if it suits your taste." Such a scene had never even appeared in my dreams before, yet now it was unfolding right before my eyes. For the first time in my life, I felt the warmth of home thousands of miles away from my hometown. In the distant northeast, I no longer held back or acted cautiously, because I knew that restraint and caution would only be the greatest harm to such kindness. So, I began to follow Su Ning's example, grabbing that big bone and gnawing on it. Another year of the college entrance exams arrived, and this time Wang Yaozu performed exceptionally well, scoring over 30 points above the first-year university admission line. When filling out the college application, he called me to ask for my opinion. "Sis, which university do you think I should put as my first choice? Mom and Dad keep saying I should apply to a school near home, so it's easier for me to come back often." Dad even said, "Raising a son is for old age security and doesn't want me to go too far away." I thought of the uncle who helped me carry my bags at the station, the aunties in the cafeteria, Su Ning's parents, and my teachers and classmates. I knew that to truly change Wang Yaozu, it couldn't just rely on my efforts alone. I needed to place him in a completely new environment, one that could reshape the deeply ingrained beliefs in his heart. I said to him firmly, "Yaozu, if you really trust me, then apply to the National University of Defense Technology." A man should go out and make his mark in the world, not spend his whole life trapped in that little fishing village. He didn't hesitate in the slightest, saying, "All right, I'll listen to you." The day after the college applications were submitted, I received a call from home for the first time in ages. It was my mother. On the phone, she cried and scolded me at the same time. "You ungrateful wretch, you didn't even come home for the new year to show some filial piety to your own parents, only caring about having fun outside, and now, to top it off, you even encouraged your brother to apply to a university in the Northeast. What on earth were you thinking?" It seemed Wang Yaozu had really listened to me and applied to the National University of Defense Technology. Listening to my mother's foul language over the phone, I calmly asked her, "Mom, why do you want Yaozu to go to college? Is it to bring honor to our family and glorify our ancestors? If so, Then I suggest he apply to universities in the north. Am I really harming him by doing that? You always say that if he studies so far away, what will you and Dad do? Who will take care of you when you're old? So, is Yaozu just your and Dad's retirement plan? Is his future not your priority? My mother angrily replied on the other end of the line. Bullshit. Would I ever harm my own son? Stop trying to drive a wedge between us, I continued. I made the most reasonable suggestion based on his grades. If you're not satisfied, you can have him repeat a year of high school. Tomorrow, when he fills out his college applications, just have him apply to that third-rate university in the city. After saying that, I hung up the phone without giving her another chance to speak. 2 months later, Wang Yaozu arrived at the National University of Defense Technology to report. I made a special trip to the station to pick him up and led him to the freshman reception area in front of the station. He had grown taller again and looked much stronger. As soon as he saw me, he handed me the bag he was carrying and said, I'm exhausted. Mom packed so many things for me, I could barely carry it all. Just like before, I took the bag he handed me and asked, didn't the two of them come with you? He replied, no, the fishing season is about to close, and there's a lot of work at home, so I didn't let them come with me. Just as we were talking, a few male students from the freshman reception desk walked over, and one of them naturally took the package from my hands. Wang Yaozu looked at the boy in confusion, while I just smiled habitually and said, thank you, classmate. Are you here to register as a freshman? The boy asked. No, he's the freshman, I'm his sister. The other person immediately shoved the package back into Wang Yaozu's hands, their tone full of reproach. You're already this old, and you still make your sister carry your bag. Don't you have hands of your own? But I quickly plastered a smile on my face and hurriedly smoothed things over. That's just how things are back in our hometown. Everyone, don't take it to heart, it's fine. However, the eyes of the few boys around us were clearly filled with disdain. They muttered under their breaths, what kind of place has rules like that? If I ever made my sister do work at home, my dad would skin me alive. Though spoken softly, these words still clearly reached Wang Yaozu's ears. His face instantly flushed bright red, like a boiled shrimp. As he stood there awkwardly, his eyes filled with embarrassment and unease, I gently patted his shoulder and comforted him. It's different here from back home, you'll get used to it gradually. He nodded blankly, his gaze following those siblings helping each other carry their luggage. Lost in thought, at that moment, I knew that my brother, who had grown up in a family that favored sons over daughters, was facing a completely different set of values from the outside world for the first time, and it had hit him hard, perhaps because I had intentionally or unintentionally guided him since childhood. Wang Yaozu adapted to the new environment much faster than I had imagined. He was surprised to discover that here, girls and boys enjoyed equal status. In the classroom, girls actively participated in discussions, their ideas sparking off one another. In campus activities, girls could take charge on their own, showcasing abilities that were no less impressive than those of boys. Even in daily life, it had become commonplace for boys to help girls carry things. This new understanding, like a gentle spring rain nourishing the earth, quietly took root and began to grow within him. Not long after, Wang Yaozu called our parents, saying he planned to earn his tuition and living expenses through part-time work and would try not to ask for money from home anymore. On the other end of the line, our parents were moved to tears, praising him over and over for growing up and becoming sensible. Listening to their praise, a chill ran through my heart. Once, when I worked part-time to support my studies, I was met with my parents' criticism, accused of not knowing how to help the family. Now, my brother's identical decision earned him endless praise. It turns out that in my parents' eyes, the efforts of a son and a daughter have always been worlds apart. During the long holiday, Wang Yaozu used the excuse that the round-trip travel expenses were too high and didn't return to his hometown. Instead, he came directly to my school to find me. When I saw him at the school gate, I almost didn't recognize the sunny, handsome young man before me. The timid little boy who always hid behind his parents in my memory now stood tall and straight, his eyes filled with confidence and determination. While we were out shopping, he naturally reached out and took the bags from my hands, smiling as he said, as a younger brother, it's my duty to serve my sister. I struggled to stretch my arm and patted his head, teasing him. Not bad at all. He grinned. Of course, I'm almost a head taller than you now. How could I not look after my big sister? I pretended to be angry and reached out to pinch his ribs. He let out an exaggerated yelp, so loud that passers-by turned to look, his howls echoing down the entire pedestrian street. In that moment, I truly felt that Wang Yaozu had changed. He was no longer the boy bound by old-fashioned ideas but had grown into a man who knew how to care for others. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, I was in my junior year of college. I continued to maintain excellent grades, earning scholarships every year, immersing myself in the ocean of knowledge, and enjoying the fulfillment and happiness that learning brought. And Wang Yaozu would come to see me during holidays when he wasn't working, sharing the little details of his life with me, always joking and telling me to teach him a lesson. The bond between us siblings grew even deeper as the years passed. However, the peaceful life was soon shattered by a sudden storm. That day, I was sitting quietly in the dorm room reading a book when the door was suddenly pushed open with a bang. I looked up and my heart sank. It was my parents. My father's face was dark, his brows tightly furrowed, his eyes full of authority, while my mother was seething with anger, as if she could erupt at any moment. Su Ning, who shared the dorm with me and knew about my family situation, politely stepped forward to greet them. "Hello, uncle and aunt," but all she got in return was my father's icy reply, "Get out, our family has something to discuss." Su Ning thought she had misheard and asked in confusion, "Uncle, what did you say?" Her father shot her an impatient glance, his tone growing even harsher. "Can't you understand plain language? Get out." Su Ning instantly flew into a rage. With her notoriously fiery temper, she snapped back, "Who do you think you are? What gives you the right to order me around? This is the girls' dormitory. You're the one who should leave." The commotion immediately drew the attention of girls from other rooms and the dormitory supervisor. Just then, my mother suddenly rushed over, grabbing my arm with a tone that brooked no argument. "Hurry up and come with us to withdraw from school. You're going home to get married." My eyes widened in shock, my voice trembling. "Why?" A smug smile curled at the corner of my mother's lips as she said, "Old Wang's son has taken a liking to you. They've offered a bride price of 150,000 yuan. If you give birth to a healthy baby boy within a year, you'll get another 100,000. Such a good deal is hard to come by even with a lantern in hand. Don't be ungrateful." The thought of old Wang's son, idle, lazy, and always speaking with a sarcastic, insinuating tone, filled me with disgust, making my stomach churn violently. I forcefully shook off my mother's hand and shouted loudly, "Whoever wants to marry can go ahead. I'm not going back. I want to go to school." My father immediately flew into a rage, his face flushed with anger, and he slapped me hard across the face. "How dare you defy me? Family matters are not for you to decide." The slap sent my head spinning, and a warm liquid began to flow from my nose. The taste of blood spread in my mouth. Seeing this, Su Ning immediately stepped in front of me and began scolding my parents. At that moment, Auntie Wang also rushed over to help. She stood in front of me and said to my parents sternly, "What you're doing is too much. Leave now, or I'll call security." Dad felt his authority was being challenged and, in a fit of rage, pushed Auntie Wang to the ground, cursing and grumbling all the while. Auntie Wang let out an angry shout and immediately started grappling with Dad. The situation spiraled out of control instantly. Mom tried to step in and help, but she was held back by Su Yao and the other girls. Finally, the police arrived. At the police station, Dad's face was scratched up, looking like a painted mask, but he was still shouting loudly, "I want to take my daughter away." "What right do you have to stop me?" Mom chimed in from the side. "How can a woman hit a man? She has no upbringing." The young police officer looked calmly at Dad and said slowly, "This is a police station, don't make a scene here. Should women just be bullied?" Dad took his anger out on me again, raising his hand to hit me. Just then, Wang Yaozu, who had arrived unnoticed, grabbed Dad's wrist. "Dad, do you want to make a scene and ruin my sister's future job prospects?" Dad glanced at Wang Yaozu and reluctantly lowered his hand, but still shouted at me unwillingly, "Wang Zhaodi, you must come home with me today." Gritting my teeth, I said with a determined look in my eyes, "I'm not going back, even if it kills me." Mom was so angry she stamped her feet. "How dare you defy me? Do you believe I can't tie you up and drag you back home?" In the end, with the police mediating, Dad apologized to the dorm supervisor and compensated her with money, finally putting an end to the commotion. Before leaving, Wang Yaozu gave me a hard shove and said with a cold face, "Wang Zhaodi, you're utterly disgraceful. Don't ever set foot in our Wang family's home again. Get lost." I knew he was deliberately saying it for our parents to hear, trying to help me, but my heart still ached, and I couldn't hold back the tears welling up in my eyes. I turned and walked away without looking back, the shouts of my parents and Wang Yaozu's arguments echoing behind me. "How could you drive her away? The bride price has already been settled." I can earn my own money in the future, I don't need hers. After the turmoil, Wang Yaozu secretly came to find me, stuffing a wad of money into my pocket. Sis, this is my part-time salary for this month, don't always save money, buy whatever you need. I wanted to refuse, but he pressed my hand tightly. Mom left me living expenses before she passed away, don't worry about me. With that, his voice grew softer. Sis, I'm sorry. I grabbed him by the collar, made him lower his head, and patted it gently. Silly boy, what are you apologizing for? Having a brother like you in this lifetime is truly wonderful. After graduating from university, I passed the campus recruitment exam and stayed on to work in the admissions office. Wang Yaozu also smoothly joined a military-industrial enterprise and married his college girlfriend, Lin Shui, before the wedding. To prevent our parents from causing trouble, the young couple specifically came to me. We had a meal together, which also served as a way for me, as the older sister, to witness the destination of his love. I bought a small gold lock for the baby in Lin Shui's belly, eagerly anticipating the arrival of the new life. By the end of the year, my little niece was born. Upon learning that my sister-in-law was nearing her due date, my parents arrived a month in advance. But when the nurse brought out the baby and said it was a girl, they immediately turned hostile. Mother's face was full of disdain as she cursed Lin Shui, who was still in the operating room. Useless, can't even give birth to a son, you're a disgrace to our Wang family. Father also joined in, urging Wang Yaozu to divorce her quickly and find a wife who could bear a son. Wang Yaozu tried to calm them down, but mother pulled him away, saying, Son, there are plenty of women out there, I'll find you a better one. A crowd had gathered to watch the commotion. Standing to the side, I looked at my parents' ugly faces and felt nothing but utter heartbreak. At that moment, Lin Shui's father, without saying a word, picked up an 4 bottle and smashed it hard onto Dad's arm. Dad cried out in pain. Several of Lin Shui's aunts also rushed forward, punching and kicking Mom relentlessly. Not a single person in the crowd stepped in to break up the fight. Everyone thought my parents deserved it. Wang Yaozu wanted to intervene, but I grabbed his wrist and slapped him hard across the face. Have you lost your mind? If you step in now, this family is finished. They brought this on themselves. Think carefully. Do you want your wife and child, or do you want parents who stir up trouble like this? Wang Yaozu hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he carried the child back to the hospital room. Inside the hospital room, 2 opposing sides stood in a tense standoff. Dad had a splint strapped to his arm, Mom's clothes were torn and her hair was disheveled. While Lin Shui's family looked furious, still unwilling to give up, Dad said to Wang Yaozu, Son, are you just going to stand by and watch us get bullied? Wang Yaozu remained silent for a long time before finally speaking up. Mom, you should just go back to your hometown. You never treated my sister with any respect since we were kids, and now you're trying to ruin my family. Let me make this clear. I will never have a second child in my life. You can come see your granddaughter again when you figured things out. His parents stared at Wang Yaozu in disbelief. They never imagined that their most beloved son would turn against them like this. In the end, they returned to their hometown in disgrace. Wang Yaozu's actions, however, earned the approval of Lin Shui's family, and Lin Shui became even more convinced that she had married the right man. When their little niece was 3 years old, their parents began experiencing some health issues. After discussing with Wang Yaozu, we decided to have the elderly couple sell their fishing boat and house back home and move to the city where we lived to settle down. But over the past 3 years, they haven't come to see the child even once, which has broken Wang Yaozu's heart. He said to me, Sis, I finally understand now how hard it was for you back then. Just because you were a girl, they wouldn't even spare you a glance. Seeing how upset he was, I felt a pang of sadness in my own heart. I found a quiet residential area in the suburbs for my parents to live in. Wang Yaozu, still sulking, refused to meet them but paid them a monthly living allowance. During the Chinese New Year, I bought some gifts and went to visit them. As soon as I stepped through the door, I was met with a torrent of abuse. Wang Zhaodi, how dare you show your face here? It's all because of you that my son has turned his back on us and won't give us a grandson. We should have thrown you away back then. After Dad's arm was fractured last time, it never healed properly and left him with a chronic condition. He can no longer lift his arm, and even holding heavy objects is a struggle. He had lost the strength to hit me, and I was no longer the little girl who used to let him beat me. Now, he and my mother could only use vicious words to insult me. I walked straight into the house, placed the things on the table, turned around, and sneered, I give you living expenses every month, and I even bring things to see you. How have I become an ungrateful wretch? Mom, Didn't you hate grandma for making things difficult for you when you were young, but look at yourself now. What's the difference between you and her back then? Is giving birth to a girl such a heinous crime, who in this world wasn't born from a woman? Have you ever held me? Have you ever cared for me? Have you ever thought about my happiness? Have you ever treated me like family? If I could choose my parents, I would never choose ones like you. As I spoke, I flipped the table over, sending fruits and cooked food scattering across the floor. After that big argument, they clearly became much more subdued, because the commotion was so loud. Everyone in the neighborhood learned what kind of people this newly moved and elderly couple were. From then on, no one in the entire community paid them any attention. Even when they met in passing, no one greeted them. They were completely isolated. Occasionally, I still bought some things to visit them. Sometimes, I would see them sitting on a bench in the community square, watching a few elderly people playing with their grandchildren not far away. Their faces filled with loneliness. They became much more polite to me and would ask about how Wang Yaozu and I were doing. I would only give formulaic answers. The emotional barrier in my heart remained difficult to overcome. Wang Yaozu would sometimes call to ask about our parents, and I would tell him the truth. On the other end of the line, he would always sigh. Who on earth came up with this outdated idea of favoring sons over daughters? If it weren't for you educating me since I was young, I'd probably be just like our parents. I thought of the selfish, cold, and indifferent Wang Yaozu from the past, only to realize his image in my memory had gradually faded. Are you free this weekend? Send the kids over to stay with me for a couple of days, I said to Wang Yaozu over the phone. He smiled and replied, sure. She was just saying the other day that she misses her aunt and keeps pestering me to take her to school to see you. Hearing his words, my heart felt warm. In August, during the back-to-school season, I received a call from a student on the other end of the line. She tearfully recounted her family situation, which turned out to be strikingly similar to my own from years ago. Listening to her sobs, I felt as though I were seeing my past self, that girl struggling in the darkness, helpless and desperate. I gently comforted her. Don't worry, classmate, go ahead and register at the school first. The school will figure out the rest. Her voice trembled with emotion, as if she had grasped a lifeline. Really, teacher? After receiving my confirmation, she broke down in tears over the phone, thanking me over and over again. Before hanging up, I softly encouraged her, don't give up hope, girl. Hanging up the phone, I gazed out the window at the brilliant sunshine and the deep blue sky. The pain of the past has long since become the driving force behind my progress. I know my story is still unfolding, and I will do everything in my power to help more girls like me. After hearing the second story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. In my previous life, I was drained as a blood bag and died alone in the factory dormitory. Upon seeing my lifeless body, my parents were filled with regret. After being reborn, I obtained a 10 years early enlightenment pill. The system said taking this would make my parents realize the truth 10 years earlier, but instead, I fed the pill to my baby brother in his swaddling clothes. My brother's eyes lit up, and his little mind became enlightened. Lucy, why haven't you sent money home yet? Did you spend it on some man? Mom's scolding voice on the other end of the phone was deafening. Your brother still needs 100,000 yuan, and this is the first time he's asked you for help. What kind of attitude is this? He's the one you raised since he was little. Are you just going to abandon him? Say something, will you? I lay in the factory dormitory, my forehead beaded with cold sweat, my chest tight and aching, feeling as if I were about to die. Mom, I'm not feeling well. Stop pretending to be dead. If you don't send the money today, I'll come to the factory tomorrow. I'll make sure the whole factory knows what an ungrateful wretch you are. Dad's impatient voice also came through. Lucy, is a few $1,000s worth your life? I gave you your life in the first place. Grandma chimed in from the side. See, I told you we should have just strangled her from the start. Amid their curses, I closed my eyes. After working 72 hours straight, I died suddenly in my dormitory at noon. My co-workers discovered my body. In the afternoon, my parents rushed over from out of town, weeping bitterly in front of my coffin. They regretted it. The next moment, the sound of a baby crying suddenly rang in my ears. I found myself in a cramped yet familiar bathroom, with a baby now in my arms. I have been reborn. I was reborn when I was 4 years old, and this noisy little snot in my arms is my younger brother. A golden pill is floating right in front of me. The description next to the pill reads, have your parents take this pill, and their minds will advance 10 years, awakening sooner. I recall the sight of my parents weeping bitterly. they truly did regret it, looking at the mere 30,000 left in my bank account. They regretted not trading me for a bride price directly. With my death, they suffered a huge loss. Such parents, even if they had awakened 10 years earlier, would only have sold me off to the countryside when I was 14. The baby brother in my arms was still crying, his tiny hands clutching my clothes, drool bubbling from his mouth. I looked at the brother who now depended on me so completely. Without hesitation, I slipped the pill into his mouth. At this time, my brother was 3 months old. He was already hungry, and when something sweet suddenly entered his mouth, he swallowed it with a gulp, even happily kicking his legs. But gradually, the kicking slowed down. A complex expression, unique to intelligent beings, gradually appeared on his face. He looked at me, who was holding him, and mumbled something indistinctly. Dada. With the intelligence of a 10-year-old, it wasn't hard for him to guess the relationship between us. Little brother, are you hungry? Let your sister take you to find something to eat. Duh. I carried him out of the room. This was my family's old house. The electric fan whirred as it spun, and the boxy television was playing a popular, melodramatic soap opera of the time. My mother, dressed in her pajamas, lay reclined on the sofa, cracking sunflower seeds. Her eyes were fixed on the TV, and every now and then, she would curl her lips at the cheesy, overly romantic plot. Mom, my brother is hungry. Mom, could you make some formula for my brother? Mom, as I called out for the third time, the woman suddenly hurled the sunflower seeds in her hand right at my face. My brother and I were both caught in the crossfire. What are you calling for? Mom, 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 all day long. Go find your grandma. Wasn't she the one who kept pushing for kids? Now that they're here, that old hag doesn't even care. 2 little burdens. Get out, get out. My brother was startled, but he didn't cry. I didn't say a word, just picked up my brother and walked out the door. Grandma is always playing cards downstairs at this time every day. I carefully carry my little brother downstairs, taking one cautious step at a time. In my arms, my brother's little face is twisted with fear, his tiny hands gripping my collar tightly. To a baby, this staircase is no different from a cliff, and his little life was in the hands of a 4-year-old child. Fortunately, everything turned out fine in the end, and I found my grandmother playing cards. Grandma, it's time for my brother to have his milk. With her eyes closed, Grandma rubbed the mahjong tile in her hand and suddenly threw it out. 9 of dots. Good heavens, it's the 9 of dots again. She rolled her eyes at us. Go find his real mom for milk. I don't have any for him to suck. My brother, thinking he was clever, believed he could stir our grandmother's affection. He burst into tears, eyes wide. Wah, wah, ugh, you 2 little brats, get out of here. Grandma gave me a shove. I'm playing cards here, don't bring bad luck. I almost stumbled, then pretended to comfort my crying brother. Come on, let's go, I'll make you some milk. I carried him back home again. The formula was hidden in the kitchen's overhead cabinet. I set my brother down on the floor and skillfully stacked 2 chairs on top of each other. The chairs wobbled unsteadily. My brother lay on the floor, watching me intently, not daring to breathe too loudly. Fortunately, I managed to get the formula in the end, mixing the formula, feeding him, and burping him, all in one smooth motion. After finishing his bottle, my little brother's tiny body grew drowsy, and he drifted off to sleep in a daze. As I patted his bottom gently, my mind began to wander back through the memories of this life. My brother was too young to remember, but I remember it all too clearly. My brother was an extra birth, and as soon as he was born, we had to pay a hefty fine. Grandma complained that my mother had no milk, so we had to spend extra on formula. My mother, in turn, resented Grandma for deceiving her. She had promised to help raise the child and even offered a gold bracelet, but none of it came true. My father went to work in the city, and the conflict between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law shifted to me and my brother. It wasn't until my brother turned 5 that they started acting like a proper family. Now, my brother can personally experience the love they always talked about. Time moved forward to when my brother was 9 months old. With the mind of an 11-year-old, he strongly resisted when I tried to help him wash his bottom. I threw the towel at him. Then wash yourself, as if I loved serving him so much. In my past life, I had to endure the smell of his waste for years. I'd be thrilled if he could handle it himself. My little brother grabbed the damp towel with both hands and slowly started wiping his bottom. Maybe I had been a bit too harsh just now, he pouted, looking somewhat wronged. Just as he tried to stand up, he suddenly slipped. Below was the hard-tiled floor. I caught him in my arms. Dada. Clumsy and still trying to show off, I scolded with my words, but my hands gently rinsed his back with warm water. My little brother has been mischievous since he was young. a wild monkey. Even without early enlightenment, I always had to keep one eye on him, though he doesn't remember it. Damn girl, Grandma's voice rang out at the door. What are you doing hogging the toilet? The first thing Grandma did when she got home from playing cards was to use the bathroom, ignoring the two of us. She pulled down her pants and started peeing. Wash your brother's bottom, mph. Grandma's triangular eyes glared at me and my brother, a pair of money-losing goods. After she finished urinating, seeing me still silently wiping and washing my brother, she inexplicably flew into a rage. Dragging your feet, just like your lazy mother, using hot water in the middle of summer. All you know is how to enjoy yourselves, don't you know how to save on gas? With that, Grandma picked up the water dipper and splashed a scoop of cold water right at my little brother. In the old days, kids all bathed with well water, so what's the big deal? They grew up strong and healthy. The cold water was chilling, and I quickly pulled my brother into my arms. Most of the water splashed onto me, leaving me shivering all over. Wah, wah. This time, my brother was truly crying. Not long after, my mother decided to wean my brother. Her method of weaning was simply to stop buying formula. But as for what he would eat afterward, she didn't care. If she didn't care, my grandmother certainly wouldn't either. So every day, as a young child, I had to take a rolling pin and a kitchen knife, pounding and chopping meat and vegetables in the kitchen into a mushy paste for my brother to eat. One day, my grandmother saw me busy in the kitchen. She snatched my brother from my back and carried him to the dining table. Look how clumsy you are. Don't you know how to use your own mouth? With that, she picked up a meat bun from the table, took a bite, and her wrinkled lips moved up and down, quickly chewing the bun into a lump. She spat it into her hand and brought it toward her brother's mouth. Her brother struggled violently in her arms, his entire body stiffening, his little face scrunched up, creating 3 layers of chin, his eyes nearly popping out. Grandma, Mom said we can't feed him like this. Mom said we can't feed him like this. I ran over and tugged on Grandma's sleeve. Mom said there are germs. She's the one with germs. Grandma yelled at me, slamming that lump of stuff onto the dining table. Her husband was raised just like this. So what? Seizing the chance, I took my little brother from her arms and carried him to the kitchen to feed him porridge. Grandma wanted to chase after me to hit me, but just then her mahjong friends came knocking at the door. Mary, come play mahjong, we're short one player. Ah, coming. I thought I had escaped the beating, but before leaving, she pinched my thigh hard with her fingernail. Hiss. I bent over in pain, set my brother down, and pulled up my pant leg to see a patch of skin had been viciously pinched off. Thump, 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 thump. My brother, beside me, was pounding the floor tiles with his little fists in the direction Grandma had gone, his eyes red and furious. I could tell he was utterly disgusted with this old woman. At the end of the year, my father, who had been working away from home, returned. Our whole family sat at the dining table, waiting for him to arrive. My younger brother was especially nervous, and I knew what he was hoping for. Mom and Grandma don't love him, only this father he has never met holds a glimmer of hope. Finally, the door opened, and Dad entered the house, bringing a chill with him. My son, you're finally back. Grandma rushed forward in tears. You've been gone for over half a year, and I've been so worried about you. Mom hasn't let you down. Look, your children are all well. Rest assured, I'll help take good care of the family. My brother couldn't help but roll his eyes, mumbling and spitting with his mouth pouted. My precious son, Dad has missed you so much. Dad walked over and took my brother from my arms, spinning him 3 times in the air. When you left, you were still a little mouse, and now you've grown so big in just a few months. On the surface, the family seemed happy and harmonious, but no one paid any attention to me the entire time. Mom looked at Dad with a hint of resentment. Bob, how has your work been this year? Why do you send back so little money each month? Grandma slammed her chopsticks down on the table. Lu Huifan, if you think it's too little, go out and earn it yourself. My son has worked hard all year and just got home, and now he has to listen to your nagging. Do you even want to have a good new year or not? I'm not nagging him, I just want to say that next year, I'll go with him so we can earn an extra income. Grandma looked at Dad, thinking this might actually be a good idea, but Dad just brushed it off. Who knows what next year will be like? We'll talk about it after the new year. Dad didn't say it, but I knew. It wasn't that he hadn't earned any money, he had lost it all playing cards. After all, like mother, like son. After 3 rounds of drinks, Grandma and Mom had also had a few. The atmosphere at the dinner table began to liven up. Dad started talking about what he had seen in the big city. Mom, you have no idea how tall the buildings in the big city are, they practically pierce through the clouds. A single Brick under their feet could buy us a whole house. Grandma had never seen the world, but she loved hearing her son talk like this. It made her feel sophisticated too. My dear grandson, someday you'll take Grandma to the big city and buy her a tall building too. Grandma teased my brother with her rough fingers, and he dodged away in disgust. Yes, I'm just waiting for my son to get into Tsinghua or Peking University. To bring honor to his old man. When the time comes, you'll buy your dad a car, a fancy little house, marry a city girl, and take our whole family to the city to enjoy a life of luxury. Dad lifted my brother up to eye level, rubbing his stubbly beard left and right against the boy's delicate face. My brother made babbling sounds, clearly resisting. My mother noticed me eating in silence and snorted coldly. Sons are still better. Raising a daughter is completely useless. My father glanced at me, probably thinking I was too young to understand. It's not entirely useless. Do you know how much it costs to marry a wife these days? How much? Grandma was most concerned about this. Dad stretched out his palm. 50,000 yuan. Heavens above, Grandma cried out, beaming at me. Who knew this little money loser of ours could be worth so much? I smiled back at Grandma, pretending not to understand. Dada. My little brother kicked and thrashed in Dad's arms. Furious, my mother looked at me with disdain, clearly displeased that I was being praised. With her attitude, she's not worth half that. It's worth it. I've asked around. My dad said proudly, I have a coworker who does this kind of work. You can send them to his village at 10 years old, as long as they're not stupid or disabled. That's the price. Ouch. Suddenly, Dad cried out in pain. Why is my son biting people? There was a red tooth mark on his arm, and my brother's entire upper body was leaning toward me. His mouth babbled, uttering the first words of his life. Sister, the younger brother, could speak. Father pestered him for days, hoping he would call him Dad, but he just wouldn't say it, only knowing how to say, sister. Dad's interest quickly faded, and from then on, it was still me who took care of him every day. That day, I was helping him build a bridge on the floor with old chopsticks when Mom suddenly shouted from her room, there's a thief in the house. Mom's footsteps quickly reached the living room. She scanned the area angrily, and finally, her gaze landed on me. Lucy, was it you, you wretched girl, who took my money? It wasn't me, I replied calmly, shaking my head. Dad, watching TV nearby, asked, how much money is missing? All the loose change is gone, a good $70 or $80. Hearing such a small amount, Dad couldn't be bothered to respond. I remember now. When I was little, money went missing at home during the new year. Mom suspected I had taken it, beat me half to death, and then threw me outside the house in the bitter cold of deep winter. I was left with frostbitten hands all over, and the next day, I came down with a high fever. So it was this year, I started to recall, but in my memory, that money was never found in the end. Just as I was deep in thought, my mother's slap came flying at me. I stumbled from the blow and fell straight to the ground. Sis, my little brother crawled over and threw himself on top of me. Mom, get Tom away from me. Grandma picked up my brother and carried him back into the house. My brother wailed anxiously, but it didn't slow down Mom's punches. Hurry up and hand over the money, or I'll beat you to death. I thought you were so honest, staying quiet at home all day. Turns out all your cunning is hidden right here. Where did you hide the money? Seeing me covering my head, Mom yanked my hands away and pinched my face and neck hard. Dad stood by, indifferent, merely frowning as he turned up the TV volume. Soon, Grandma came back. She would never miss a scene like this. She gloated with schadenfreude. Our family doesn't have any thieves. Who knows where she picked up such a bad habit? Mom seethed with silent resentment, striking even harder. My body burned with a fiery pain. Just then, a dull thud suddenly echoed from the room. Oh no, Tom fell. Several people rushed into Grandma's room, and I followed, clutching my arm. There was my little brother lying on the floor, crying loudly, with Grandma's handbag in his grasp. Inside was a red coin purse that belonged to my mom. My money. My mother snatched my grandmother's purse. She looked even more vindicated than when she discovered I had stolen money. She said sarcastically, "Ha, look at this, who really has the habit of stealing things? You." My grandmother couldn't find an excuse for a moment and could only turn to my father for help. "Son, your wife is insulting your mother, Lu Huifen. All the money is earned by me. My mom can spend it however she wants." "Fine, you earn the money, you're capable. When spring comes, I'll go to the city with you to work. I'll support myself." While they were arguing, I quietly walked over and picked up my little brother from the ground. "Sister, does it hurt?" My younger brother cried so hard his body began to tremble, asking me in broken sobs. I shook my head, feeling somewhat disheartened. Starting life over again is nowhere near as easy as one might imagine. I'm only 5 years old now, too young to carry heavy loads or handle delicate tasks. All I could do was wait until I grew up. In the end, Mom stormed out angrily. Seeing me sitting on the ground comforting my brother, she coldly tossed 2 coins at my feet. Enough, if you had done well normally, this wouldn't have fallen on you. I gave birth to you and raised you. What's wrong with hitting you a couple of times? Do you expect me to kneel and apologize to you? After saying that, she put on her coat and left. With Mom gone, Grandma and Dad simply went out to play cards. At noon, I cooked a bowl of noodles for the 2 of us. After eating the noodles, I carried my younger brother on my back and headed to the small shop. Using the 2 coins my mother had given me, I bought 2 ballpoint pens. In the cold winter, I tucked the ballpoint pens into my brother's hand. Little brother, your sister doesn't need you to protect her. Hearing me say this, my brother was clearly taken aback, and then his eyes reddened again. He thought I considered him useless. Your sister is very capable. Promise me that in the future, we'll study hard together and get into a university in a big city. Let's run far away and never come back. Okay. My brother's eyes finally lit up, and he nodded earnestly, just as adorable as I remembered. Day by day, time passed. Gradually, my younger brother learned to speak and no longer needed me to carry him on my back, and I also started elementary school. The family believed he was beginning to remember things, and their attitude toward him began to change, but my brother was no longer as easy to deceive as he had been in my previous life. True to his promise to me, he developed a strong interest in learning. While I was doing my homework, he would also pull up a stool to scribble and draw. These elementary school assignments were quite simple for him. The family quickly noticed that he was smarter than other children. Wow, Sister Ma, that's amazing. Your family might just produce a top scholar in the future. Because Mom and Dad both went to the city to work, we started living with Grandma. Grandma liked to take us to the place where she played cards, showing off my brother's extraordinary talent. The child I've watched grow up can't be anything less, just like our Bob. When our Bob was little, he could pick up coal balls faster than any other kid, Grandma said proudly. If he took after my daughter-in-law, it would be over. Look at this girl, just like her mother, clumsy and slow all day long. My sister is first in the class. My younger brother slammed his pen on the table and shouted crisply. Don't listen to her bragging. Grandma never cared about my studies, so she had no idea whether my grades were good or bad. She's been lying and stealing since she was a kid. She even stole your mom's money. You believe her? You're the liar. It was you who stole Mom's money. I remember it clearly. You hid it in your bag. You said it was for pocket change to play cards. Grandma hadn't expected him to actually remember. Her face flushed with embarrassment, but her mouth remained stubborn. You're so young, what could you possibly remember? My brother wanted to say more, but I patted his back, puffing out his cheeks. He swallowed the words, old hag, that were about to follow. One of Grandma's mahjong friends said mockingly, Auntie Ma, your granddaughter is something else. At such a young age, she already knows how to win people over. I see your grandson isn't close to you anymore. Better watch out, or he might end up resenting you someday. Those words made the old lady's heart skip a beat. From that day on, the old lady deliberately began to separate me and my younger brother. I understood her intentions and chose to comply on purpose. My brother was also very obedient. When I wasn't around, he would flip through the textbooks I used last semester. He quickly learned quite a few characters. In the past, at dinner time, Grandma would only give us 2 yuan to buy steamed buns. Now, as soon as it's mealtime, she brings my brother home. In truth, she's the clumsy one, relying on her husband when she was young, and on her son after her husband died. She's hardly cooked a meal in her entire life. Now, just to win over my brother, she's actually started cooking. That day, Grandma had learned a new dish from somewhere, poached sliced pork. The moment I saw this dish, a memory in my mind was triggered. So it was today. Grandma had been busy for over an hour, making the kitchen dirty and messy, and only managed to finish the dish with great effort. She quickly called out to her brother, Tom, Grandma made you boiled fish slices tonight. It's a dish from a fancy restaurant. See how much Grandma loves you. With that, she wobbled over to the dining table, carrying a steaming pot of boiled fish. I calmly looked at the ground. There was a puddle of water she had just spilled there. Grandmother stepped right onto the puddle, slipped, and lost her balance. Seeing the hot soup about to spill all over herself, she threw the pot away without hesitation, threw it at my brother who was reading in front of the TV. In my previous life, My brother's neck was scalded by her, leaving a large scar. In this life, my brother will hate her to the core. I had intended to ignore it, but before I knew it, I had already rushed over and pulled my brother into my arms. The scalding soup spilled on the floor, splashing onto my calf. Sis, my younger brother quickly pulled me to the bathroom to rinse with cold water. Fortunately, it was just a reddening from the heat. My brother rushed back to the living room, shouting loudly, "If you dare hurt my sister again, I'll never acknowledge you as my grandmother." The old lady was stunned for a moment, then sat down on the floor, crying and wailing in self-pity. In the end, seeing that no one paid her any attention, she finally quieted down. From then on, the old lady no longer dared to treat me poorly in front of my brother. Even if she had to pretend, she would force out a bit of warmth. A year later, my family's financial situation improved. Although Lu Huifan wasn't a qualified mother, she was a business-minded entrepreneur. At first, she and my father both worked on construction sites, but later she set up a stall outside the site selling boxed meals. After the business took off, she rented a storefront and successfully became a female boss. At that moment, Mom suddenly missed her son and made the decision to bring both of us over. Of course, the main reason for taking me along was to look after my younger brother. "Lucy, come here." After the shop closed for the night, Mom called me into the back room with a dark expression on her face. I was 8 years old at the time, and my brother was 4. Seeing her unpleasant expression, my brother quickly followed her. Mom threw him a toy and told him to play in the corner of the room. "Lucy, your father has a woman outside." Mom dropped a bombshell right off the bat. Had heard it in my past life, so it didn't feel new to me. I kept my head down, still feeling gloomy. Mom glanced at my little brother playing with his toy car in the corner, thinking he wouldn't understand. "If Mom and Dad get divorced, who would you go with?" "I don't know," I replied dismissively, but my mom misunderstood, thinking I was torn between them. Suddenly, she threw her arms around me and began sobbing uncontrollably. "Lucy, your mother's life is so bitter. Your father is a dog that can't change its habit of eating shit. If it weren't for you, I would have divorced him long ago. Mom only has you as a daughter. You must stand by my side." She glared at me with gritted teeth. "The Shao family values sons over daughters. Back when they found out it was a girl, your grandmother and your father couldn't even be bothered to take a look. If it weren't for Mom stopping them, they would have strangled you to death. Ever since giving birth to you, my back has been hurting to this day. You are the flesh that fell from my body, my little cotton-padded jacket. Only I, your mother, can't bear to part with you." In my past life, hearing these words truly tore my heart apart, as if it were being ripped open. From a young age, everyone told me that there are no parents in the world who don't love their children, so I believed they loved me. I never imagined it was just two loveless people using me. I pretended to sniffle. "I can't bear to leave you either, Mom. Daddy is bad. I hate him." Hearing me say this, my mother finally broke into a smile through her tears. Her eyes filled with the satisfaction of revenge. After Mom left, my younger brother, who had been squatting in the corner playing with toys, grabbed hold of me. "Sis, don't fall for it. They're just using you as a pawn." "Really?" I put on a puzzled expression befitting an 8-year-old. My brother nodded earnestly. "Sis, listen to me. Don't say a single word about them. Don't get involved in anything. Got it?" Seeing me standing there dumbfounded, my brother pressed the question with a serious tone. "Oh, I see, sister." After I finished speaking, my brother ran out of the house. At dinner time, Dad came back drunk. My mother started putting on a show at the dinner table, clutching her waist with a look of grievance. "Oh dear, it looks like it's going to rain again in the next couple of days. My back is aching like it's being pricked by needles. It hurts so much at night that I can't sleep well, and I still have to run the business during the day." In my previous life, I would have stood up for my mother at this point, only to be beaten up by my father. Mom finally looked satisfied, and even scolded me for being disrespectful. This time, I didn't respond. Mom shot me a subtle glare and deliberately put another piece of meat in my bowl. "Lucy, study hard. In the future, we'll buy you a house and get your household registration moved to a big city. What's gotten into you?" Dad slammed the table. "She only needs to finish elementary school. What's the point of buying a house?" Mom was trying to provoke me through Dad, but I acted as if I didn't care at all, keeping my head down and eating my meal the whole time. Seeing me as unresponsive as a block of wood, my mom lost interest in saying anything more. While we were eating, my dad suddenly let out a surprised, "Huh," then he immediately started vomiting. "Damn it, why is there a lump of shit in my bowl? Ha 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 ha." My younger brother suddenly clapped his hands and laughed. Mom said Dad can't change his dog-like ways, so I fed him dog poop. Mom said Dad doesn't earn money and wants to divorce you. I'll go with Mom in the future, and I won't care about you or Grandma. Dad, who was already drunk, vomited even more violently. Fine, Lu Huifan, you want to divorce me, and you even incited my son to harm me. Mom stared at her son in shock. How could a 4-year-old know so much? Tom, what nonsense are you talking? The little boy stiffened his neck. I'm Mom's little sweetheart. Dad cheated and slept with another woman. He doesn't want us anymore. He and Grandma are both bad people. When I grow up, I'm going to beat him to death. You still want to hit your own father. Dad stepped forward and kicked him, sending the boy tumbling to the ground. I told you not to stir up trouble here. He slapped my mother across the face. Xiao Bob, how dare you hit me? Woo woo, I'll fight you to the death. I picked up my little brother and ran out onto the road. This was the first time he had been beaten by Dad. I lifted my brother's shirt and saw a red footprint. What nonsense are you talking about? Does it hurt, sis? It doesn't hurt. I made them fight among themselves. My brother's face showed the thrill of revenge. I looked at my brother speechlessly. Even though he had matured earlier than his peers, he was still just a teenager. Little brother, these are adult matters. They have nothing to do with us. We just need to take care of ourselves. Okay, sis. I just can't stand them using you and treating you poorly. I patted his head. Thank you. I promise you, sis won't let herself be taken advantage of. Seeing that I was fine, my brother finally relaxed and said proudly, Sis, you know what? This dog poop is from Big Yellow. His poop is the smelliest. Alright, go wash your hands. When my younger brother was in elementary school, my parents bought a house in the city and brought Grandma to live with us. Over the years, they have indeed put in a lot of effort to support my brother, but he has always been indifferent toward them. Seeing this, Grandma was afraid that my brother would drift apart from them. One day, after Dad went out drinking, Grandma called my brother into her room. Not long after, my brother's sarcastic questioning could be heard from inside. Grandma, what do you mean my sister is an outsider? My brother kicked the door open and looked at my mom. My grandma says my sister is an outsider, can't be counted on, and that I'm the one who has to take care of her in the future. Then Mom, you're an outsider too, so why do you still have to be filial to my grandma? My mom was wiping the table and secretly felt pleased when she heard this. Grandma's face darkened as she stubbornly argued, because your mother married your father, as a member of our Shao family, she should be filial to me. Hey, my brother interjected, hands on his hips, then why don't you let my aunt be filial to her mother-in-law? Grandma was caught in my brother's logic and grew furious out of embarrassment, pointing at me. She scolded, a woman who's married off is like water splashed out. You're protecting her now, but she'll end up siding with her husband later. Aren't you also water splashed over from the Chen family? I heard from my mom that you used to take money from home to support your in-laws. Didn't see you burn one less incense stick for the Chen family during Qingming festival either. Grandma, if you're trying to drive a wedge between me and my sister, I suggest you shut up early. Whoever treats me well, I'll treat them well. Those who never cared for me a day in their life, don't come trying to get close. Grandma was so angry she stomped her feet. Tom, have you fed your conscience to the dogs? Grandma raised you since you were little. How have I not been good to you? Taking me to play mahjong counts as raising me. Grandma pointed at me. Lucy, I bet it's you who's been stirring things up behind the scenes. Don't you dare yell at my sister again. If you do it one more time, I'll never support you when you're old. I'll let you starve. Grandma was so angry she burst into tears, but my dad wasn't home, and my mom was too busy enjoying the show to pay her any mind. After that incident, Grandma never dared to try turning my brother against me again. In the blink of an eye, I turned 14. All these years, my parents only attended parent-teacher meetings for my brother, never caring about me. They believed that letting me receive free compulsory education was already an immense favor to me. After learning that my brother had excellent academic performance, they doted on him even more. Neither my brother's school nor mine provided lunch at noon. Since we run a restaurant at home, Mom would prepare 2 lunch boxes for us every morning. Both lunch boxes were tightly sealed, and she specifically reminded us not to open them on the way to avoid spilling. Sis, here's a big chicken leg for you, across the playground fence. My brother slipped a braised chicken leg into my lunchbox, which was otherwise filled only with vegetables. More ribs, please. I gave him a few more pieces, and after a bit of back and forth, we finally started eating. They probably never imagined I'd be sneaking over the wall to have lunch with you every day. My brother shoveled food into his mouth, looking quite pleased with himself. You sneak out every day. Doesn't your teacher say anything? My brother made a smug face. Brother Tong is the top student in the whole school. When I climb over the wall and can't reach, even the dean of students would give me a boost from below. I couldn't help but laugh at his words. Without realizing it, this little brother of mine had almost grown as tall as me. Little brother, they're only mean to me. Why do you have to go against them too? For justice, my brother shouted, but then he said seriously, sis, do you really think they were good to me? I didn't speak. Is it possible that, to them, we are both just assets? Keep what's valuable, discard what's not. I believe there are parents in this world who truly love their children, but they are definitely not among them. My brother smiled at me and gave me the last piece of spare ribs. Sis, once you get into high school, they'll definitely find out your grades are better than mine. By then, they'll surely have their eyes on you. You need to be careful. I nodded seriously. My middle school entrance exams were over, but aside from my younger brother, no one seemed to care. That summer was long, and Grandma arranged for us to return to our hometown. Along the way, we even spent a day at one of her relatives' homes in the countryside. This relative had a daughter, and our parents told us to call her cousin, sister-in-law. Tom has grown into such a handsome young man. The relative affectionately patted my younger brother on the shoulder and then glanced at me standing nearby. Instantly, their eyes turned sour with envy. Unlike in my previous life, thanks to my brother's care, I didn't suffer from malnutrition. Now I'm taller than my mom, and my looks are quite striking. This girl sure can eat, and she's grown a lot. Hearing this, my brother snorted, his lips forming the words, blind as a bat. After the meal, my cousin took me to play in the village, while my brother stayed at home to keep the guests company. As the adults chatted, the conversation eventually turned to me. Sister-in-law, how old is your Lucy? She's 15, just finished the college entrance exams. With her brain, who knows if she'll even get in? Because my brother was present, my mother didn't dare to speak too harshly. Well, from the sound of it, if she gets in, you'd still let her keep studying. What's the point of a girl reading so many books? The more she reads, the more restless her mind gets, harder to manage. In our village, girls can be sent off to have babies by the time they're 14. Look, Tom is already this old. If we marry off his sister, wouldn't it be easier for him to find a wife later on? Mom wanted to stop it, but it was too late. The relative's words poured out as fast as spilled beans. My brother shot to his feet, startling everyone. Mom quickly tried to smooth things over. Oh, come on, it's all just idle chatter. That kind of talk isn't in fashion in the city anymore. My brother glared at the relative and suddenly let out a cold laugh. Mom, I'm going to go play with my sister. When my brother found me, I was surrounded by my cousin and a group of children. Can't even a city kid climb over a pigsty? My mom said they weren't from the city at first, just like us. Then she's a traitor. Yeah, unless you climb over the pigsty, you're a traitor. Traitors have to kneel and kowtow. I stood speechless in the middle, not wanting to say another word. Bullying my sister is nothing special. If you've got guts, challenge me. My brother suddenly appeared, glaring at that cousin. Seeing a boy come forward, the other boys weren't convinced either. Let's do it. We'll race by climbing over the pigsty, then jump across the manure pit over there. Whoever gets back first wins. If you lose, you have to kowtow. No problem. In the countryside, kids play together regardless of gender. Everyone runs as one. A whole group of them lined up at the starting point. At the sound of the signal, they all dashed forward in a rush. My brother has been a wild monkey since he was little, and on top of that, during his 3 years of middle school, he scaled the high wall at least twice a day. He ran both fast and agile. A few of the boys were precocious and knew that their cousin was trying to make things difficult for us, deliberately tripping up my brother. But to everyone's surprise, my brother charged through like a little bull, knocking them all aside with a single shoulder. Inside the pig pen, there were still a few fat pigs. 2 of the boys lost their balance and tumbled right onto the pigs, startling them into frantic squeals. Crossing the pigsty, a few more steps would lead to the village manure pit. The younger brother deliberately slowed his pace to wait for his cousin. Just as his cousin was about to jump, he stuck out his foot to trip her. Help, your daughter has fallen into the manure pit. Mom and Dad were happily chatting with relatives about how much money they could get for selling me. Just then, someone came with news. Everyone rushed outside and saw my cousin, half dead and covered in manure. Chen Sanhua, look at your child. A burly man dragged 2 boys over. How can a girl be so wild? She made my 2 sons go dig through the pigsty. They almost got trampled to death by the pigs, and my pigsty, those brats trampled it all down. whoever instigated this better pay up. The two boys were also covered in pig manure, and with the three of them together, the stench was unbearable. My cousin could only cry at that moment. She hadn't seen who tripped her, so she couldn't even tell on anyone. In the end, she got a beating from her own mother and had to pay the pig farmer 100 yuan to rebuild the pigsty. Because of this incident, it wasn't appropriate for our family to stay any longer, so we returned to our hometown that very day. When the high school entrance exam results came out, my parents were utterly stunned. They never expected that the daughter they had neglected for over a decade would actually get into the best high school in the big city with the top score. They looked at me as if I were a stranger, with shock, suspicion, and even wariness in their eyes. At that moment, the relatives' words echoed in their hearts once more. Too much reading makes the mind restless, hard to control. One evening, I overheard them whispering in Grandma's small room, "Bob, why is this girl so deep in thought? It's really unsettling. She can't be allowed to keep reading like this. Who knows what twisted ideas she'll come up with if she continues. Yes, look at Tom, he's been led astray by her. In my previous life, they secretly went to the school and cancelled my student registration, forcing me to choose between working and getting married. From the age of 16, I kept my head down and worked hard until I was 24. This time they wanted to try the same old trick again, but clearly, they knew absolutely nothing about the education system. How could the school possibly let me go when I was ranked first in the entire city? When they came back with the 20,000 yuan bonus from the school, they looked at me with smiles on their faces for the first time. "Lucy, study hard, okay? Tell Mom if you want anything to eat." Oh my, the ancestors have blessed us. Our family has produced 2 literary stars. "Sweetheart, even if I have to push through the ground with my head, I'll support you through college." On the surface, I put on a grateful and appreciative face, but deep down, I never let my guard down, because I know they won't let me fly away. Even if I were a phoenix, I would have to be a phoenix with broken wings. If I flew away, I wouldn't belong to them anymore, and they wouldn't be able to exploit me. Throughout my 3 years of high school, I never dared to waste a single moment. Being reborn didn't give me much help in my studies, but my mindset was truly different. I didn't hesitate, I forged ahead. My goal was extremely clear. I wanted to fly away, fly far, fly to a place they could never even imagine. My brother thought the same as me. The two of us were like in a competition, holding our breath. He even skipped a grade after finishing 7th grade, directly closing the gap between us. When I was in my senior year of high school, he entered my high school with the top score in the entire school. "Sis, I finally caught up with you. Good luck on the college entrance exam." Before filling out the college application forms, Dad took the whole family out for a meal. "My dear daughter, last time when we had dinner with Uncle Wang, he said the city university here is quite good, with guaranteed job opportunities after graduation. He suggested you apply to this school. Is he out of his mind?" My brother said irritably. "You can get into that school with just over 300 points. Does he even know how many points my sister can score?" He meant well for Lucy, and Mom thinks it makes sense too. By now, Mom already had strands of white hair at her temples. A young girl like her, if she goes to another city, how can her parents not worry? Exactly, staying at home is the best. Once you're married, the family restaurant will be for you and your husband to manage. In the past, no family would ever spoil a daughter like this. Grandma was so moved by her own empty promise. Seeing that I remained silent, my mother grew impatient. "Lucy, I've never liked your quiet, reserved personality since you were little. Just tell us where you applied. Can't you even share that with your family?" "I've already submitted my application. Capital Medical University. I want to become a doctor." I set down my chopsticks, my tone calm and detached. For a moment, the entire room fell silent. In the days that followed, they never brought up the topic of filling out college applications again, but I knew that beneath this silence was anything but peace. Sure enough, 2 days later, the whole family returned from outside, their faces beaming with joy. I happened to be away that day, and only my younger brother was at home. "What were you all up to?" My brother frowned, annoyed just by the sight of them. "We went to the internet cafe," Dad replied, sounding rather pleased with himself. Grandma even winked and grinned at Mom. "Tom, your father and I only want what's best for you." Mom sat down next to my brother, putting on a gentle, motherly expression. "You're a boy, destined for great things in the world. We can't keep you tied down at home. With your sister taking care of things at home, you can focus on building your career out there without worry." "Exactly," Grandma chimed in. "You'll need a lot of money for university later. If we let your sister run off and spend it all first, what are we supposed to do then?" My brother suddenly jumped to his feet. It wasn't the first time he'd lost his temper at home, but this was the craziest outburst yet. He flipped the coffee table over, shouting at them with a hoarse voice, "Speak up, where have you been? How dare you? I'm your father. How dare you yell at me?" Dad rushed forward to try and subdue his younger brother, but the brother, already standing at 185 meters tall, pushed him to the ground with just one hand, sitting on the floor. Dad was furious and pointed at his brother, cursing, "Fine, go ahead and shout. We've already changed your sister's college application, and we used up the last chance. She can't change it back now. Why are you all trying to harm her like this?" My brother shouted, tears welling up in his eyes. He really wanted to punch these people, but beating them up wouldn't solve anything. After taking a deep breath, he calmed down and pulled out his phone. Mom and Grandma hurried over to comfort him, but the two of them froze in surprise. "Tom, what are you doing?" My younger brother ran out in big strides. "I'm calling the police." At the police station, my brother's mouth was bruised and swollen, but he sat up straight. My distraught mother and grandmother sat on the ground, throwing a tantrum. The father who had just attacked his son has already been handcuffed by the police. Classmate, according to current laws, parents who privately alter their children's college entrance exam choices cannot be sentenced to prison. A police officer walked out with a grave expression, looking at the bizarre parents lying haphazardly on the ground, his heart filled with intense resentment. But there was nothing he could do. How could this be? Not only did I fail to help my sister, but I also couldn't make them pay the price. Tears instantly welled up in my brother's eyes, and his whole demeanor wilted. Haha, look, even the country agrees with what we're doing. Your parents gave birth to you and raised you. You have to listen to them for the rest of your life. This is a debt of gratitude. Parents are greater than heaven. Dad wore handcuffs, his face full of pride. My brother was so angry his hands trembled. He took out his phone and finally dialed my number, but my phone suddenly started ringing right at the police station entrance. A document suddenly appeared in my hand as I looked coldly at my parents. "No one has agreed to what you're doing. Evil done in the name of love is the most shameless and despicable evil, sis." My brother hurried over. I cut him off before he could speak. "I know they were bound to do something. I've been watching them these past few days, and as soon as I found out they were planning to change the application, I went straight to the Education Bureau." "Brother, thank you for helping me call the police. You saved me some time." "Uncle Officer, please give me the police report. I need to take it to the Education Bureau to change my college application." The police, hearing that it could still be changed, immediately went to handle it. "No, you can't go to another city for college. If you dare to go, I won't give you a single penny." They were shouting behind us. I grabbed the materials, took my brother by the hand, and rushed out of the police station like two birds breaking free from their cage, soaring into the sky. "My name is Tom, and my sister is Lucy." According to my sister, back then, due to the policy, she took up a quota, so they hoped she would pass away young. But later, my parents did the math and said they could use that money to get me a wife. That's why they risked being penalized to have me. But my whole family scolded her for talking nonsense. I am a golden child, a boy blessed with wealth and fortune. I can't remember much from before I was 5, but I've heard them say that my older sister was never good to me. She had terrible character. She would steal money and pin it on me, and she once nearly scalded me to death with hot soup, leaving a huge scar. My sister was always quiet at home since she was little. The only time she ever raised her voice was at the dinner table, when she accused our father. That time, Dad hit her. I didn't understand. Since Mom and Dad's relationship was so good, why would she try to stir up trouble and push them to divorce? My sister didn't get into high school. After finishing middle school, she went straight to work in a factory. According to my parents, she rarely sent money home and was involved in messy relationships with men over there. I really wanted to call and talk to her, but before I could even deal with her, I fell ill. The doctor said it was a brain tumor, located on the brainstem. The surgery cost was extremely high, but the chances of success were almost zero. My parents hadn't come to see me in a long time. According to my grandmother, they had gone to the reproductive medicine department. They say the technology is mature now, 100,000 yuan, and you can have several at once. I didn't quite understand. Didn't Dad lose all the family savings gambling 2 years ago? Where did the 100,000 yuan come from? I was lost in thought until my eyes finally closed. Slowly, I opened my eyes again, seeing the doctor in front of me wearing a sterile mask. Her eyes were very beautiful, very familiar. "Sis." My voice was still a bit weak. "The surgery was very successful. The brain tumor has been completely removed. Now you need to rest well." I forced a smile at the corner of my mouth. with the world's top neurosurgeon performing the operation, it was bound to be successful. Sis, I just had a dream. I dreamed that I was foolish when I was little, not remembering how good you were to me, nor how bad they were. I kept speaking up for them, like an idiot, in the dream. I also had a brain tumor, but the me in the dream didn't have a miracle doctor. Sister, I saw my sister's eyes widen in surprise for a moment, but then it curved. That must have been a terrible nightmare, but as long as you're alive, nightmares always end. After hearing the stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.